All right, great. We got a packed house today. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting. We'll be opening it up. I see that we have a vice mayor from our city of Sonora here. I was going to impose on Andy if you'd be willing to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning, everyone. Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. All right, everybody. So looking over the agenda today, we have 7 items that are on consent. We have a couple closed sessions at the end, and our major things will be a presentation at 9:30 from Access to Tuolumne, and then at 10 a.m. we have an appointment on the budget item, which, fingers crossed, I don't want to say it, but sounds I'm not going to say it, but it might be a lunch day, might be able, no, we'll see. With that, we will open it up for the Board of Supervisors oral communications. This is for any items that are not on the Board of Supervisors agenda. You're welcome to speak on any of that. Let us know your concerns. This is your time. So please, if you'd like to speak, you'll have 3 minutes. There'll be a beep at 1 minute, and please come forward. And folks can come sit up here if you want to, or line up, or whatever helps facilitate it. Good morning.
Good morning. Supervisor Brandon and Supervisor Campbell, in regards to your comments at the last meeting, Jaron, you emphatically stated that if rent control was removed, it would only take 1 to 2 months for all 861 residents in rent-controlled mobile home parks to be homeless, because rents would instantly rise to $2,000 a month. That's 2 to 3 times higher than most current rates. Your comments have no basis in reality. There's no current or prior data from Tuolumne County or any other area to support your claims. You did not interview the owners of the parks and ask what they would do, and you did not interview all 861 residents to find out their financial situations. You made it up. In other words, you lied in order to scare a vulnerable population of old people into siding with you. Excuse me. Ryan, you stated that all the residents should be terrified and that they should not trust their landlords. Again, scaring a vulnerable population for political gain. It's the oldest tactic in the book. You then leveled a veiled threat to your fellow board members that all those residents are going to line up to tar and feather you, and thereby all of you, if you even discuss removing rent control. And that probably would happen since you are bent on scaring everyone. Your comments drive a wedge between landlords and their tenants and create an adversarial relationship. In addition to scaring tenants with unfounded claims, they make it more difficult for landlords to conduct business. The comments were anti-business and anti-housing. And it's laughable that you tried to claim the moral high ground over your fellow board members on this when you know nothing about what it actually takes to create housing. Sure, you talk and vote on small portions of a few projects, but that does not make you experts. Meanwhile, as you move your mouths, myself and people like me are putting our money, time, talent, and bodies where your mouths are. Supervisor Campbell, for the last 5 years, I have been building the largest new housing project in your district, 14 apartments for seniors, yet not once have you ever asked me about it. Not even once. Forgive me, but that makes your comments feel less than genuine. This is to be continued. Until then, I have this prayer to offer to the board. Heavenly Father, I don't even know how to pray for this because I really don't want to fight. I'd rather just debate issues on their merits and not on gaslighting, fear-mongering, identity politics, speculation, and lies. How do we get there, God? Please help us get there. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Casey, and I'm currently a resident, or I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. I'm a homeowner and a small business owner in Jamestown. As you know, Jamestown has been struggling lately, and I'm here to deliver these cards to you guys personally. Each card is signed and filled out by a Jamestown resident,
And-
I'm
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is this related to the economic development discussion in Jamestown?
I was told no,
Okay.
but it could be. Is it? I don't know.
I believe I've seen the card, and it's only a matter of when we have a 10 a.m. item with the budget. If
Oh, I'll
staff
come
can
back.
identify, I believe we have that as some of the direction for the following year on that, so it has to be at 10.
Okay, I was wrong. So I'll make an appointment at 10?
It'll just be in here if you're here at 10, or you can leave that with our clerk. Great. Great, there we go. Be around 10 there. All right, and again, just to clarify, this is for any items not on the agenda, anything with the budget adjustments or some of the decisions direction in the last meeting, that would be at our 10 a.m. So anyway, hi, good morning,
Good morning. This is my first time attending, so I'm a little nervous as well.
welcome.
My name is Cassandra Hard. I am a Tuolumne County resident, and I'm also an event community organizer. I am here just to bring awareness to the permits that, permit fees that it takes for temporary food facilities to come to these events and the price increase. Looking into those increased prices, our pricing here in Tuolumne County is similar to that of San Francisco, which affects people being able to come out to these community events and supply food and stuff like that. So I am just raising awareness and also just wanting to talk about how this affects any community event. And that's it.
Great, thank you.
I had a lot more to say.
You did great. You did fantastic. All right. Hey, good morning. Good to see
Morning,
you.
Sharon. Long time no see. Three of you anyway. Glad that two new members are on the board. I haven't been here in a while. I've been pretty busy. I have a business in town here called Sierra Biosystems. We build DNA synthesizers here that make artificial DNA for a lot of the large biotech companies. We have another company in Germany that make another style as well, and we sell these all over the world. We employ people here in the county. Looking at the document that the grand jury produced, it was instructive to me that at least two of you influenced that enough to where you could get rid of Tracy, and I'm really glad you did. I tried to get rid of her 3 years ago, and in the meantime, she cost us about $400,000 a year with benefits, and what a waste that was. And they went into detail on some of the problems related to the fact that that method of administrating the county was costing us money, and it was costing credibility of the board. And I think you still need to get rid of Sarah, and she was aiding and abetting in that, and you need to clean house and continue doing that. I remember talking with the person that was doing the economic development, Bergstrom, and he was put in that place having had a sociology degree from Fresno State. We had him for an open house at our place, and I told him at the time, I said, you know, you're going to get thrown to the wolves, and he did. And I don't know how he ever got put in that position, but he was a good guy, and he was at least honest, but he didn't know a thing about business. So my wife and I would encourage you that we have bought a house in Eugene, Oregon now, and that's where we're going to move. And we're also going to move the our company's headquarters to Dallas, Texas, and we'll do our work out of there. We're still going to be doing manufacturing here, but Tuolumne County doesn't have a good future. And you're bankrupt and you don't know it. Your roads are indicative of that fact, and you can't even afford to keep them up. So I would encourage you to think about turning this over like the city of Bell did to the state, and let them wrestle with some of the problems of the roads, et cetera, and also make your locus of authority, not the administration, but yourselves. They take orders from you, and for too many years, for the last 20, has been opposite to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Ree Anderson. I live on Rugged Trail Road in East Sonora. This is your update on the dump, which is also known as a disposal facility, but we call it a dump, so I'm going to continue to call it a dump. It is right now still temporarily closed down, which is good. The ministerial permit that enables activity on the dump is still not revoked or anything, and it needs to be revoked. The reason is the county's been using it as a method of creating and operating the dump. I sent out an email Thursday after last meeting, which would be the 22nd, I believe, stating, well, it wasn't stating anything. It was a report that was originally sent to the state on why this permit is not really ministerial. It doesn't meet the criteria for it. It was issued incorrectly. A ministerial permit is something that has a criteria of like issuing a dog license. I believe that's the phrasing that they use on the actual ordinance at the state level. In other words, no brain power, no thinking, nothing like that is supposed to be involved. When you do overrides and use it to cure existing violations on a parcel, use it as a method to grade and develop a 2.5 acre parcel and cure the violations that are currently existing on the parcel, that's definitely using your brain and giving it lots of thought, which is not exactly what I would call legal or appropriate or in compliance with the ordinance code at the state level. This brings us to the issue that continued grading did happen after the county's Tuolumne County Road surface dump took place on the parcel. In the fall after that, that was last year, in the fall of 2024, they started excavating and grading in the creek. Actually, I believe it started before that, picking up boulders and knocking down trees and pulling up the stumps, and it contaminated one of the wells of the residents there. And we wrote a code compliance complaint and still have yet to get a code compliance case created for it. We've heard nothing about it. It gets ignored. And we would like something done because we feel that that's extremely dangerous. Dirt is now in the well water, in the filter. He did the test that he could afford, but it needs complete test because the debris from the asphalt from the surface of Tuolumne Road that was dumped there, among other things. And we really, really need that to be done. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I believe we have our Community Development Director, Quincy Yaley, in the back. I know you've already been able to contact, but if there's any updates, so, great. Good morning.
Patricia Ray, also on Rugged Trail Road, where the dump just spoken of, its mess starts 5 feet from the fence of my property. Another facet I want to touch on here is these people's diesel equipment. Diesel equipment per se isn't necessarily a problem, but this is very bad running when active. Plumes of black smoke. We have been coughing and very stinging mucous membranes, nasty smell. 3 or 4 pieces of this bad running equipment going at once. This is out of compliance with certain regulations that diesel equipment should be inspected once a year and be clean running to not be a horror to nearby people. And this is another instance among many where it seems some people get preferential treatment and others get kicked to the curb. This is another thing that acts as a swindle, even if it isn't really meant to be, where active like this, and if it gets like that again, will potentially worsen our health. To have my good health taken away to where I can't work anymore, etc., is a swindle, as is trashed property values. If this so-called business park zone parcel had nice, innocuous businesses, maybe some of the tan buildings, little landscaping, ordinary, reasonable businesses, I wouldn't be griping all the time. I'd coexist easily. Such is not the case. I stop here. Thanks for your attention.
Great, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Holland. Thank you very much. You look so professional today. Thank you, Sean, for printing out more agendas for the audience. And to Bruce Erickson, I went out to your open house and I really enjoyed it. I really learned a lot and I'm going to miss you. We need to take a moment and remember Bob Fisher. I think he retired as a pharmacist at Save Mart. And then he was very active with the Historical Society. His son, Brad, now runs the museum. So I have a card if anyone would like to sign that. And then Sergeant Matty Schock from CHP became Lieutenant Matty Schock, and so he's no longer in Jamestown. I have a card for him if anyone would like to sign that. And then I want to applaud Mr. Griefer in your district, the Yosemite Express. This is so awesome. There's a whole calendar. It's full of everything that's going on in the South County and part of northern Mariposa County. I wish we had this up here. So it's available. They have some at the library this month. They have some at the senior center. And then they're also at the hospital, and the Visitors Bureau gets some. And I just think this is so awesome. And then we have a tobacco coalition in our county, and we get grant funding to pay for that. And May 31st was International No Tobacco Day. And we certainly have a problem with tobacco in our county, and I was really disappointed that we did absolutely nothing. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, do we have any other oral communications? Again, this is for anything not on the agenda. Good morning.
Yeah, just a quick comment. Didn't really want to talk about anything specific today. I know you guys have a lot on your agenda, and I know our mayor is now in the room, but I wanted to extend an invitation. I think we're long overdue for a joint meeting in front of the public. I just wanted to invite you all. I think in the wake of a lot of recent events, I think we owe it to the public to kind of hash some things out. I know we're facing a lot of unprecedented problems in our community. And yeah, I just loved the opportunity for all of us to get together and talk about it. So whether it's at City Hall, here in these chambers, I just wanted to invite you all to have a conversation in the near future, try to work some things out. So thank you.
That's great. First, Vice Mayor, thank you for the invite there too. And I think you got nicer chambers, so we should talk about it. All right, do we have any more oral communications? All right, going once, going twice. Okay, there we go, close. We always have a hand raised like right at the last minute too, whenever I call that. We'll be moving next into our staff reports. If any members of our staff have any updates for the board and for the public, please step forward. Good morning.
Good morning. Debbie Reagan, your solid waste director. June's a busy month for us. I have 4 things to rattle through here very quickly. They're all available to Tuolumne County residents, city and county. First one is this Saturday, June 7th. We partner up with the Greater Valley Conservation Corps to do tire amnesty days 4 times a year. This one also has mattress drop-offs. So between 8 a.m. to noon, 14933 Camage, you could bring up to 9 passenger tires, no rims, please. Mattresses should be dry, unsoiled, no bed bugs. But this is a great way to get rid of these things at no cost. So we will have that. That's actually up on the county news flash site right now. It's posted around town and on our Facebook page for Public Works. The next one is, you might wonder why I'm talking about solid waste directors talking about the airports, but at the Father Days fly-in this Saturday, June 14th, we'll be giving away free oil change kits as part of the Classic Car Show out there at the Fly-In. And just so you know, the Fly-In has $7 admission for adults, $3 for kids 10 to 17. Veterans and kids 9 and under are free. It's a great thing. It's the 56th annual. And we decided to play for the oil side of things. Our Household Hazardous Waste monthly event will be Wednesday, June 18th from 9 to 1. If you're bringing household hazardous waste, please call our office at 209-533-5588, and we will make an appointment for you for that. Please also call because we also accept mattresses and e-waste for free. Again, with the Greater Valley Conservation Corps helping us out with the labor. And you don't need an appointment for that, but we can give you location details. Last, but certainly not least, free green waste dump days are back. I was able, with working with the Earth Resource Facility, that's Cal Sierra, and the Wise Woodwork site at Plainview, Thursday, June 19th, and Saturday, June 28th, Tuolumne County residents can bring their green waste for free. So I'm using a combination of operational funds and our 1,000-ton allowance to do this. The hours vary at each location. There's some flyers in the back. Again, we will post it everywhere. Generally 8 to 3:30. Max 5 cubic yards, please, per run. And no businesses or commercial waste. I don't need the tree services rolling all of their things in. However, if you need to have a handyman helper of some type to help bring you, not everybody in this county has a pickup truck. You're certainly welcome to provide a copy of your residence info, and that way folks who can't get it there themselves can, hire somebody else to help get their green waste. Don't burn it. It's time to take it somewhere else. That's just, I will have those things posted up. I just got this set up last week, and I do intend to do 2 more days of this fall. Thank you so much.
Great,
Hey,
thank
Debbie,
you.
Ms. Reagan,
Yes,
do you have any plans, or are there any plans in the future for the Groveland area, the South County, Don Pedro area? It's a long way to bring their green waste.
the grade is a pain to do that. Unfortunately, in the summertime, because there's an industrial burn permit for the Groveland Transfer Station, but it's very seasonal. And so this time of year, that permit ended at the end of April. It starts back up, and we can look at that. My concern is that I might get a pile that might overwhelm that burn permit up there. So if I can find a green waste facility that works in that area, then I would be certainly happy to try and have something done up on that area.
Okay, thank you.
All right? Thank you.
Debbie, could you
Yes.
tell the public at our last tire disposal a few months ago, approximately how many tires we got out of the community that ended up on the side of the road?
Say that again?
You know, our last event we did for the tires a couple months ago,
Yes.
approximately how many tires did we collect that got collected there and not ended up on the side of the road?
Oh, the last time we did this event, it pretty much overwhelmed our system. We had 875 tires come in 4 hours. Yes, everyone. It was 875 tires in a 4-hour period. They were stretched down the road. I'm working with GVCC to try and help manage that. But that is a good point, Supervisor. It's amazing. We see a low day is 290 tires or so when we do one of these. It goes upwards of 600 to 800 tires, which is, I find, pretty amazing. And tires are one of the most commonly dumped roadside items. I have more plans and projects in development for tires to make it easier for tires. Not ready for prime time yet because I'm waiting on a grant from Cal Recycle to help fund it. But if I get that, I will be looking to expand tire collection here later this calendar year. Other questions? No? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we have other staff reports? There we go. Good morning.
Good morning, Board. Donnie McNair, County Clerk and Auditor Controller, up here with our prior Auditor Controller, Debbie Batista, and we wanted to take
5 minute?
This is on
Oh,
the
it's on.
consent calendar, number 5. We can pull it off and do it now.
Oh, it has to get
The
pulled,
presentation of service award? Yes, so
Yeah.
that'll be just in a
Oh,
couple
my bad.
minutes. But we got this front row. All right. And do we have any other staff reports? Okay, with that, we will close staff reports. We'll be nice to Donnie. So ordereth the chair. So with that, we will go into the consent calendar first. Do we have any items that the board would like to pull off of consent?
Chair, I was going to recommend we pull item 5, presentation of service award.
Okay. So we're pulling item 5. Do we have any other items that we're planning to pull?
Yes, item 7.
Okay, so items 5 and 7. Do we have any last item? Okay, so with that, if the clerk can read items 1 through 4 and 6.
Item number 1, determining there is a need to continue the emergency actions ordered by the county administrative officer as a result of a plumbing failure and resulting water damage on April 3, 2025 at the AN Francisco Building located at 48 Yaney Avenue, Sonora, California, pursuant to Public Contract Code 22050 and TCOC 3.22.060 for fifth vote required. Item number 2, approval of plans and specifications for additional HVAC mini split units for the 911 dispatch relocation to 18440 Stryker Court for the proper climate control in the IDF room and authorize staff to release an invitation for bids. Item number 3, accepting the notice of completion for the Jamestown Gateway and Main Street Revitalization Project, contract number 1756, and authorizing the chair to sign the notice. Item number 4, consideration of adopting Resolution 44-25, proclaiming June 2025 to be Elder Abuse Awareness Month and June 15, 2025 to be World Elder Abuse Awareness Day 2025 for Tuolumne County. Item number 6, as the Air Pollution Control District Hearing Board, accepting the resignation of Kevin Lindsay as the attorney member to the Tuolumne County Air Pollution Control District Hearing Board and directing the clerk of the board to post a notice of vacancy.
Great, thank you. Do we have comments and questions by the board? Supervisor Campbell?
Yeah, I have just one comment. I would encourage my colleagues on the board to reach out to Kevin Lindsley to understand his perspective and why he's resigning from the Air Pollution Control Board. I think that would be pretty enlightening for all of us.
Okay, do we have other comments, questions? Only had 3 very brief ones. One, I appreciate the work going expeditiously into the dispatch center effort as well for our staff and the sheriff's office, getting the bids out. The second is a special thanks to Public Works Director Blossom, who has been there since day one, touring those sidewalks, and we all were tripping over them in Jamestown collectively. It's been multiple years, and it's so nice to see this wrapped up and looking so much better, and people are really noticing that, and I appreciate it. And I wanted to echo Supervisor Campbell's concerns. I had a conversation, was unsolicited, reached out, and I think based on some of the other appointments made on there, that there was concern. And that's something that is unfortunate. All right. Seeing no other comments or questions, I'll be looking for a motion to approve items 1 through 4 and item 6. Oh, actually, and I did have one question to staff. This was in the agenda review. We talked about, because we had created an alternate position for the Air Resource Board position, which I know we have to also identify that we are doing that vote as the Air Resources Board. Is that with the updated language? Was that updated since our meeting of moving the alternate to the 5th? Because right now it has a notice of vacancy.
Yeah, we did not make
Okay.
that change yet.
Okay. So just identifying that item 6 because that is technically, as the Air Pollution Control District Board, we are voting on all of these together, but we will be doing that one as the Air Pollution Control District Board, the rest as the County Board of Supervisors. Got it, right? Thumbs? Okay, good. All right, I'll be looking for a motion, items 1 through 4 and item 6.
Public comment?
Thank you. Need more coffee this morning. You got me. We'll be opening public comment on items 1 through 4 and on item 6. Morning again.
Thank you. I'm glad you remembered at the last minute. On item number 3, while I want to applaud Blossom, the person we should really be applauding is Dave Ruby, who was in charge of that project. And it looks so amazing. And I wish the city of Sonora would go and check out what they did with the sidewalks there. Because if downtown Sonora had sidewalks like that, it would just be, because it looks like an old-fashioned woods. It's just amazing. Everyone should go to Jamestown just to see the sidewalks. And then, well, this will be, as you know, I hate it when you put these resolutions and recognitions on the consent calendar. That is just so tacky and disrespectful to your staff and our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment, items 1 through 4 and 6? Good morning.
Good morning, members of the board. I'd like to take a moment and ask my team to stand. They're all back here. This is the victim witness team that serves our elder population, and we are here to represent Elder Abuse Awareness Month and Day. At this time, I would like to also take a moment to honor Tracy Archer, who is our elder abuse advocate. Since joining our team last year, elder abuse advocate Tracy Archer has shown extraordinary dedication and leadership in revitalizing the elder task force. Through her tireless efforts, Tracy has not only brought new energy to the group, but has also played a key role in organizing and leading our upcoming Elder Abuse Awareness event. Her passion for protecting vulnerable seniors, coupled with her ability to bring agencies and community partners together, has made a lasting impact. We are incredibly grateful for her commitment and the meaningful change she continues to create for our elder community. To commemorate World Elder Abuse Awareness Month and Day, the Tuolumne County District Attorney's Office Victim Witness Assistance Center will be collaborating with Tuolumne County Adult Protective Services, the Tuolumne Band of Miwok Indians Elder Program, and Black Oak Casino, Longson Document and Paper Shredding, Adventist Health Home Care Services, and the Mother Lode Office of Catholic Charities and Area Agency 12 to host our 6th annual Safe Living Elder Empowerment Symposium, which will be held Wednesday, June 11th, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. at the Elks Lodge. This event is free and focuses on providing our community with resources and information they need to protect themselves from elder abuse. Thanks to a gracious donation from Sonora Area Foundation, we will also be providing a meal for all attendees. In addition, we will be hosting a bingo game with gifts generously donated by local businesses. We welcome all of our community members and board members to attend this event if able to. And to RSVP for this event, please call 209-588-5491. We look forward to a successful event that not only informs but celebrates and supports our elder in the community. Thank you for your continued support, and I do have flyers for you guys.
Great, thank you. Do we have any other public comment? Going once, going twice? All right,
Chairman,
yes.
I did have a quick comment.
Yes, Supervisor?
Thank you guys for showing up, those of you who work with the elder abuse. If you look at the agenda later on in the budget, one of the items proposed is to get an investigator and an attorney to go after crimes against vulnerable populations, which includes the elderly. Something I've been wanting to do for years. So just know there's more help coming. Thank you guys for what you do. And with the population we have in Tuolumne County, it's absolutely needed. So thank you guys.
All right. With that, public comment is closed on items 1 through 4 and 6. Bring it back to the board. Looking for a motion to approve as the Board of Supervisors 1 through 4 and as the Air Pollution Control District Board, item 6.
So moved.
All right. We have a first by Supervisor Griefer.
Second.
All right, we have a second by Supervisor Kirk. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, abstaining. All right, passes unanimously. Great, so we will then move directly into, well, we do have, I believe, Jerry here ready for a presentation, but we do have the team for 5, so let's do the service award first, and then we can go into the 9:30 if that's fine with everybody. Yeah, to make sure we're on time for our appointments. Okay, we'll move into item 5, if the clerk can read the item.
Item number 5, presentation of service award to Teresa Badgett for 20 years of service.
Good morning again, board. Sorry about that. Got a little excited. Donnie McNair, County Clerk and Auditor Controller, along with Debbie Batista, our prior Clerk and Auditor Controller. And we would like to take a moment to show appreciation to Teresa Badgett for 20 years of county service. Teresa has been in the Clerk and Auditor's office for 20 years, and she's always been a dedicated member of our team and has always brought a positive attitude to our fellow county employees, as well as the customers we serve. And it's been a pleasure working with her. I look forward to continued years with her on our team. I think Debbie would like to say a few words as well.
Teresa is your perfect example of a public servant. She understands that we serve the public and that should be our number one priority. Over the last 20 years, we have had dozens of compliments from the public about how easy it is to work with Teresa. I always call her Christina, which is my daughter's name, with Teresa, and we've had public where it's been very difficult to get passports because they didn't understand things, or marriage licenses, and Teresa has walked them through the process. So she is somebody that we want to have working in Tuolumne County because she's a perfect public servant. And it has been my pleasure to work with her for these last almost 20 years.
We'd like to present you with this award. Thanks, you guys.
Can I say something? I just want to give a quick thank you to my family, friends, the community, and especially to my coworkers and my supervisors, because 20 years in anything has its ups and downs. It's not always easy, and without their support, I wouldn't be here holding this plaque. So thank you very much, everyone.
Teresa, thank you.
And I'll just join in. It's really gratifying to see somebody so dedicated to public service. I mean, 20 years, that is an investment in knowledge and your time, and it just really shows your dedication. And so we're very fortunate to have employees like you that have that knowledge base. And I've gotten to know you, Teresa, over the years. About a minute at a time, we always seem to ride the elevator together. So, and I just found you to be a really kind and pleasant person and really dedicated to the work that you do. So we're glad to have you on staff and glad to see you around for another 20 years.
Thank you. As we do in these recognitions, I believe Supervisor Campbell speaks for all of us on the board with that. Thank you. How are we doing for our 9:30? Do we need a couple minutes? We could take 5, or we could quickly get done with item 7. We're planning, I think at round 10, we're going to do a break anyways. Would that be fine? Do 7? Can the clerk read item 7?
Item number 7, approving an amendment to the governance manual related to the conflict of interest policy.
Okay.
So I pulled this item simply because so I've been doing this for 6 years, and I've had items come before, or we've all built things, we've had to use government agencies for permits or for whatever. So when I read this, my initial concern was, okay, why haven't we maybe done this in the past? Is there a specific board member, one came to mind, who, why we're kind of changing the rules of the game? I had a little bit of a concern as far as maybe giving delegation to the CAO to decide if there's a conflict of interest or not, simply, honestly, because the CAO works for us, and I don't want to put this, whether it's Roger or another CAO, in any sort of conflict of interest, because my guess is they would probably lean towards a board member because we're their boss. So I want to make sure, Sarah, the question is, I want to make sure that what we're doing is legit. It's not something new under the sun. Is this happening in other jurisdictions? We have processes. We have things in place. If we want permits where it goes through the process, there's appeals processes. So at the end of the day, I just want to make sure that we're being transparent. We're not giving opportunities to err. And so my questions would be, is this happening in other jurisdictions? Have we gotten FPPC direction, weigh in? And again, this isn't because I don't trust people, but I know how things can happen and potentially be abused. So I just want to make sure we're above all that. So could you fill me in?
Sure. So first of all, this has been happening kind of on an ad hoc basis. So the purpose of this is to make it more uniform and transparent because we're formalizing it and putting it into a governance manual for everyone to review. The intent, again, is not to suggest county staff are unprofessional or incapable of impartiality, but it's to recognize that even the perception of bias or favoritism can be damaging. So when you have an outside agency, it's not the CAO that is going to make the ultimate decision. The goal is for an outside agency to actually handle some of the services and functions for the county on behalf of the county so that you're removing county staff from being involved in those. When it involves, whether it's a board member or it is another public official that has some sort of supervisor oversight over the county staff. So you're having an outside agency handle these services. They have no control over, the board member, the public official will have no control over that outside agency staff. And that's kind of the point, is to create that separation. We have used it here in other jurisdictions. We've used it in dependency cases. Several times we've had to ask Calaveras County to handle matters for us. Similarly, we've used it when our office has a conflict advising the civil grand jury. We've asked Calaveras County also to handle it, and we have likewise done it for them when they've had a conflict. I think that there's other areas in the county where outside agencies come in to review and or handle matters. I know Supervisor Griefer and I spoke about situations with CHP and where they have officer-involved shootings and they bring in outside entities to handle investigations. So I don't think it's uncommon at all. And I think it goes to the transparency piece, which I've heard your board speak a lot about. The other thing is the FPPC does not give opinions on policies like this. They will only answer specific advice related to factual scenarios about particular public officials. So this part has not been run by the FPPC because that's not something that they would give advice on.
Okay, so FPPC, kind of like my example of short-term rentals, they would only weigh in on a case-by-case basis. not the
Right, and it
policy.
has to be a specific factual scenario that will be coming before your board or the official, so a decision that you will be facing. They won't even give advice on hypotheticals.
Okay, so this is a common practice in other jurisdictions. And then finally, you gave some examples. So this isn't just board members, this is also staff or other potential, I guess.
Correct.
Okay. And then my last question is, can you just clarify again the role of the CAO? Because I know at the bottom of this, it says that there'll be a team, human resources, you, CAO. But if that specific department head heavily disagreed, the CAO wouldn't say, no, there's no conflict of interest, approve a project or approve. It would simply say, no, we're going to send this to the outside to make the decision. They're not going to make the final decision.
Right,
correct?
the CAO. So what it says in the language is the board delegates to the county administrator the authority to enter into contracts with these other agencies, provided that contract cost remains within the signing authority and the funds have been allocated. And then the CAO would work with county council and HR and the department. But the CAO doesn't make the determination about the actual end result of the county service or function. They just make a decision about whether or not it should go to an outside agency. And your board can also revise that, and you can say all of these have to come to your board for approval. That's also an option.
All right, I just wanted some clarity on that. That's it for my questions, thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other board questions or comments? Supervisor Griefer?
I too was going to pull this because I was concerned that it was on consent, and I wanted to just make sure that in today's day and age with the grand jury's oversight of us, talking about transparency and fairness and things being done in the shadows, that this is just another way for us to be as transparent as possible. Again, I echo exactly what Sarah said about this has nothing to reflect upon our staff. It's just a way to alleviate any conflicts, both good and bad. The statement could be that if you're a sitting board member and you are approving budgets and things like that, you might get favorable treatment versus if you're not approving budgets, that makes it harder on you. So we just want to make sure that the public knows that this is a way for us to maintain neutrality, to make sure that the process is fair for everybody, regardless of position, whether you're an employee or a board member. I was concerned about the FPPC as well, but you addressed that. I was concerned about outside sources and the cost it would be, but I know that there's a process in place that we would try to get as local first as opposed to another large county or another county a ways away. So for me, those were the issues that I was going to raise as well. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Not seeing any other questions or comments, only say that I appreciate council's work on all of this too. I think this is an example of an ongoing effort that's been already in progress, recognizing some of these issues, and it takes some time, but just thank you, because that's been a process over years of taking what's been done on one-off basis because it makes sense or there's reasonable argument, but then the perception that that could be done unfairly or with special treatment as opposed to a policy. And I know this isn't the first of those policies over the last few years, so thank you for all the work into that. We will open it up for public comment. Again, this is any comment related to item number 7 on the conflict of interest policy. Good morning.
Good morning, Quincy Ailey, Community Development Department Director. It's a challenge for me to stand up here in front of the board and with all my peers and provide you with some of the concerns I have about this action. I've voiced that to some of you, and it might be appropriate in certain situations that have been provided to me in examples, dependency cases, law enforcement, that there is, that is farmed out to another agency. I have concerns, though, that it's circumventing the county's authority and the authority that is vested in certain decision makers at the staff level. As was mentioned, there are already appeals processes. If someone doesn't like the review that my department gives them, they can bring it forward to the board and do it very transparently about why they feel they're not getting a fair shake. The way the policy is written, it says that the department head will be consulted. It doesn't say who's going to decide if there's a conflict of interest. And I think that it was brought up by Supervisor Kirk. I think that creates some challenges within your leaders about who's going to have the decision, and that decision is going to be made behind closed doors. You don't fill out Form 700s for other counties, so it's not available for the public to know that the local entity, the nearby local entity that you're sending a permit or a project to for review doesn't have some sort of conflict with an elected official or an appointed official who fills out a Form 700. So I don't think this policy is ready for prime time. I think it needs more discussion with the department heads so that we have an understanding of how the process will work, how we can be assured that the public sees what conflicts of interests are decided behind closed doors. I just want more of an opportunity to develop the policy, not that there shouldn't be a policy at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more comments? All right, closing public comment on the item. I'll bring it back to the board, and I'm looking for a motion to approve of item 7.
Can we table this for a minute? Because I want to talk to staff at break. Can we table it and vote on it later today?
If there's no opposition, we can table this till later into the agenda. Is that fine with everybody?
Well,
Go
ahead, sir.
Supervisor
So
Campbell,
we
then
could
Supervisor
table it,
Griefer.
and I could ask the question later, but
Okay.
it's up to you.
No, you're the chair, so you decide what you want to do.
Supervisor Griefer.
I was going to echo the same thing. I would actually like to table this for 30 days, if possible, just so we can meet with, make sure all the department heads are aware and that those questions are clear. But I'm good with tabling it as well for additional discussion, but I think we maybe need to dive a little deeper into making sure that what we're doing is taking the right steps.
Well, so what I'd like to do, let's table it right now, and we can bring that back as the last item before we go into closed session, and it gives us a little time, or maybe between a break, if we have any questions for staff, we may be able to address it today. If not, we'll look at something like that to table to a specific date. Does that sound fine?
Yep.
Okay, good. So we will table that item for right now and move into our 9:30 appointment. Clerk, read the 9:30.
9:30 a.m. Presentation and report from Access Tuolumne regarding community and local government services.
Very good morning.
Guess I'll need the mic. Mr. Chairman, Supervisor, Acting CEO Root, my name's Jerry Day. I'm the Director of Access Tuolumne. Today I'd like to tell you about our work and why we'd like to continue with the county. So let's start with the meeting right now. These meetings are all distributed live on all of our platforms, cable, website, Roku, iPhone, Android apps. It's also provided freely to my motherlode, and we are happy to send it to any other platform at the county's direction. The entire point is public service and transparency. This meeting we're in right now, we do live coverage with graphics on every topic, so if anybody pops in at any certain time, they should know what's going on. We've been recently talked about how we can update those when consent calendar items get pulled as well. The recording, actually there's quite a bit of work after the fact. Of course, we have to stitch together the programs to remove the breaks. And on the website, the video includes the agenda with hyperlinks to supporting documents, the chaptering to jump to the event of interest. You're at meetings sometimes 5, 6, 7 hours, so that's very useful. And we've also recently included closed captioning. The law does not require it for someone our size, but we're taking on that cost. The archive of the Board of Supervisors and all of our meetings go back 4 years with previous meetings archived offline if they're needed. We don't just cover the Board of Supervisors meeting. We also cover the Planning Commission, Transportation Council. We did cover LAFCO and any calls from OES, any events that they'd like us to do, we do those. Others, whenever asked, we've recorded the Historical Preservation Committee meeting, the Airports Committee meeting, and then we do production. A little bit in a moment, I'd like to show you the Searle project. We've also done homeless project testimonials, a library video, and videos for OES. But you know what? We could do so much more. A few weeks ago at one of the meetings, staff mentioned doing training videos for internal use. We can do that. In fact, we're doing one for OES very soon. Have you thought about explainers to help the community know what's going on in these meetings? Like, for instance, what is a community development block grant? Every consent calendar, there's work that shows some seemingly extraordinary costs for some sort of third party that's doing work for the county, and I hear people's heads explode. Sometimes even a supervisor, my head might explode. So how do these project bids work? What is prevailing wage, and when do we need to pay it? How do you apply for a permit? Well, CDD has an online process. Let's demo that. And you have an audience, a large audience for these meetings, a captive audience, an interested audience. When we go to break, we could run these little infomercials, this more information about how these meetings go on. That's just one idea. Obviously, you can send it on social media, put it on the website. The idea is to provide more information. So to me, I believe that Access Tuolumne is the best tool for transparency, for education, and for engagement. And we're being underutilized. You can use us more. When not serving the county government, and I should have showed that government services. So when not serving the county government, the contract also allows us to not only operate the public access channel, but also go out into the community and capture dozens of valuable meetings and cultural events each year. Here's a few of them on the screen. The parade, volunteer fair, we go to the farmer's market, Cinco de Mayo. These are just the last month. Hate crime discussion. We went to Sonora Area Foundation. They did a presentation on career technical education. And of course, we had the State Treasurer, Fiona Ma. As I mentioned in November, we produced over 150 programs on Access Tuolumne last year. That is 3 a week with 1 full-time employee and about 15 to 20 hours of relief staff time each week. As you are aware, the agreement we have is for a percentage of the cable franchise fee. As people leave cable for other ways of receiving their media, that amount has been falling. We have increased our revenue from other sources to make up for that shortfall and intend to utilize our nonprofit status to solicit donations as well. And thus the county pays less each year for the services we provide. The last point I want to make is Access Tuolumne's value to emergency services. We have a live capable van that uses 2 technologies, Starlink and a bonded cellular system called LiveU. With these tools, we're able to broadcast live from breaking events such as last year's Canyon Fire and transmit not only to the different platforms we serve, cable website, Roku, Facebook, phone apps, but also the media channels of anyone. And I'm thinking County OES or CAL FIRE in particular. Also, several television news stations in Sacramento and San Francisco media markets use LiveU. They can connect right into our feed. So this is a very powerful tool for informing the greatest audience and one that we are uniquely positioned to provide. Now I'd like to show you our latest work. Maybe. There we go.
Over the past decade, California experienced the most destructive wildfires in its history. In 2018, the Camp Fire destroyed 18,000 structures and killed 85 people. In 2020, the August Complex Fire burned more than 1 million acres. A year later, the Dixie burned nearly 1 million more. Each fire underscored the urgent need for a new approach to forest and fire management, especially in regions like Tuolumne County, where the risk of catastrophic fire looms large. That new approach has arrived, thanks to the efforts of the local community in partnership with the County of Tuolumne and the Stanislaus National Forest. There's a project underway to manage the forest for the benefit of residents, visitors, and the health of the forest itself. It uses both modern technology and ancient traditions to return the forest to its natural state. This is the story of how it came to be. The Rim Fire of 2013 stands out as a pivotal moment for Tuolumne County. It burned over 250,000 acres in our Stanislaus National Forest and Yosemite National Park.
The real aha moment, at least for us on the Stanislaus, was the Rim Fire, right? Was that seeing the devastation that the Rim Fire caused and realizing that part of the reason it burned as bad as it did is because the forest was too thick.
When we went in there and saw what we saw, it really took us back. I mean, we were prepared to see something bad. It was worse than we thought it would be. We thought, man, enough is enough.
Even before the Rim Fire, the seeds of change were being sown. In 2010, Yosemite Stanislaus Solutions was formed, a collaborative effort led by groups that had rarely agreed on anything.
So obviously people who have different priorities will have strongly different views about how to manage public forests.
We used to call them the timber wars, and they are now just maybe we'd call them timber arguments at this point.
People like Mike Albrecht and others who were with the timber industry would have very, very strong opposition to positions put forward by our center or others.
And a lot of projects were stopped by extreme environmental groups that said, no, we don't want you doing that. saying that to the Forest Service. We don't like the way you're managing the forest. We don't like the way you're logging the forest.
So the Forest Service was seeing that there was a tremendous amount of polarization in the local area. Two of them in particular that felt that there was an opportunity to have dialogue and discussions, invited a number of us to brainstorm over how to create a forest stakeholder group, and even just eventually getting to the name Yosemite Stanislaus Solutions was a challenge.
We got about 20 different groups together, and they range from environmental groups to industry groups to recreational groups, and we sat down and said, hey, okay, let's figure out what we agree on. Let's quit talking about what we don't agree on. Let's start talking about what we agree on. Let's make it science-based, not emotional, and check our egos at the door and come in and start working together.
There was a lot of areas where there wasn't agreement on almost anything, but from a few initial meetings for a number of years, we continued to meet to see if there might be some benefits for different interests looking for common ground.
And in 2013, 3 years after they formed, the Rim Fire really galvanized them. They recognized that the speed in which they need to work really needs to be accelerated.
All of them coming together after that Rim Fire and basically acknowledging, like, look, if we don't put our differences aside, there's going to be nothing left to argue about.
The Rim Fire was the first classic example of where having different points of views collaborate together can lead to a successful, beneficial outcome. We brought our local desire for a middle ground solution on rim fire salvage logging and then on rim fire reforestation.
Forest Service, regional forester, we've got to put a salvage program together that has no litigation. We cannot stand any litigation on this, so we're going to oppose any litigation. And some of the folks in our groups used to be litigants on this stuff.
YSS is setting a standard for how we can move past polarization and differing views to focus on areas of agreement. That's the key. We focus on areas of agreement and we get work done.
Meanwhile, the federal government was becoming aware that their traditional response to fighting fires was, over time, self-defeating.
If you go back to images that were taken 100 to 150 years ago, you'll see that it was more of a park-like setting. So it was very open. The wildlife can move through it freely. Humans can move through it freely. And in some cases, they could pull their wagons and ride their horses without being impeded. But what we see today is areas where you can't even see 10 feet in front of you because the brush is so dense.
The big burn is the foundation of what became 100 years of Forest Service fire suppression ideology. You had over 3 million acres burn in something like 3 days. They came up with what we called the 10 o'clock policy. And that meant that Forest Service fire suppression professionals had to suppress every single forest fire by 10 a.m. the next day. So we got really good at putting out fires as fast as possible.
What they learned is something the Native Americans always knew. Fire has a role to play in our forests.
We call this a fire-dependent, not fire-adapted, fire-dependent ecosystem, meaning that so much of our flora and fauna, they need that fire to survive. And for over 100 years, between that and the removal of indigenous knowledge from the landscape, we completely removed fire from that landscape that so desperately needs it.
For over 10,000 years, indigenous people recognize that fire is a critical part of this ecosystem. So they applied fire on their own terms, generally in fall, so that forested systems could grow.
Knowing that, you know, eventually with the lightning storms and all the natural occurrences of fire that we have on this ecosystem, if they could take care of that bottom layer, they would keep the fires from becoming catastrophic, like what we see today, and keep it to that low to medium intensity that's good for forest health, that actually helps rejuvenate and keeps that ecosystem alive and healthy.
After the Rim Fire, the County of Tuolumne entered into a master stewardship agreement with the Stanislaus National Forest on behalf of Yosemite Stanislaus Solutions. This agreement marked a significant shift in forest management, enabling more proactive and collaborative efforts.
a suggestion that the Forest Service made to us as a group said, hey, you guys are doing some great things. Why don't you consider doing a master stewardship agreement? Well, what's that? Well, it's an agreement where you can work with the county, with the Forest Service to actually put projects together, have input to those projects, help them get implemented, and then actually help them get contracted to local contractors. We loved that idea.
This master stewardship agreement is a 20-year agreement that gives the county, or the partner, in this case the county, the authority to do work, to actually manage the land, the Forest Service land, whereas typically no other entities, can do projects on Forest Service land.
It opened the door to the Forest Service being able to have far more work done on the local national forests, because the Forest Service doesn't still have the capacity to plan, administer, oversee the actual work for, and to monitor all the different treatments that need to be done.
And hiring staff at the Forest Service can take anywhere from 6 months to a year, and we're able to contract with private industry in a matter of weeks. And one of the benefits of that, of course, is that we're also building the workforce, the local workforce in many instances.
The Social and Ecological Resilience Across the Landscape, or SAREL project, is the culmination of years of collaboration and learning that aims to restore forest health, reduce fire risk, and protect communities in Tuolumne County.
The project is really designed to build resilience in the forest. So it is the largest green project that has been developed in the Sierra Nevada. And by green, what we mean is the area hasn't burned. We're not talking about restoring a burned area. We're talking about building resilience to an area so that if and when a fire does start in the area, it's not catastrophic.
There are about 17 miles of wooden flumes that run through the national forest. So that's Tuolumne County's water system. If a catastrophic forest fire were to go through there and take down one of the flumes, we'd have to talk to Tuolumne Utility District to find out exactly how long we would be out of water, but it would be for a lengthy amount of time. So there's that critical infrastructure. There's all the communication towers up on Strawberry Dam, up around Pinecrest, that serve this community. There's the critical habitat, the California spotted owl, the fissure, all the other critical habitat that's out there. And there's people.
The tools used in modern forest management are diverse and sophisticated, from mechanical thinning and mastication to prescribed burns. Each technique plays a vital role.
The benefits to Tuolumne County residents are significant. I am a cheerleader for the broadcast burning and prescribed burn treatments because the fuels are going to burn.
What do you do for the fire-dependent ecosystem? You bring fire back to the ecosystem. But it should also be noted that fire is at the end of a long chain of events that require a significant amount of tools. So in the areas where we're able to and capable, we use heavy masticator machines to masticate, take down logs, thin out the forest based upon a prescription, chip it down or take it off or create the log decks that we see out there. We also do hand thinning, especially on those field breaks, shaded field breaks that we've put in and around communities.
By doing broadcast burns during the right time of the year, under conditions where the Forest Service can manage those fires safely, and to be doing pile burning during wet times of year, to be doing other treatments along fuel breaks, all of that together reduces the amount of fuel that's accumulated and reduces the ability for a wind-driven fire to rapidly crown through the forest because there's not the fuel ladder and surface fuels to carry the flames through the upper canopy.
We use drones, UAS, to do firing operations, especially in places that firefighters can't get to. And we also use them for reconnaissance to get a better look at how the fire is doing. Dragon balls are a tiny little ball that goes into a cage underneath the UAS that they fly out on a very precise grid location, and they drop these little balls, and as it drops, it ignites and does this just beautiful firing pattern that we can control with like darn near pinpoint accuracy.
The benefits of these projects extend beyond the forest. They protect homes and create jobs in the local community.
and it includes a pretty significant network of fuel breaks. And those fuel breaks specifically are designed around communities and in really strategic areas to give firefighters a place to fight the fire from, and also a way to sort of contain the fire within specific little areas.
We're creating a lot of biomass. Our alternative is to put it in piles and burn it. We would love to see that taken off of the forest floor and put into some sort of economic engine that helps Tuolumne County, helps increase our tax base, provides jobs, all of those things that you're trying to do when you're looking for the resiliency at the social level. So that's the social level of the social and ecological resilience across the landscape.
We hope that it does have a very real monetized effect with homeowners insurance, fire insurance. It's hard to say because that has been a very challenging conversation with private insurance companies, but that is one of the things that the Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors is fighting very hard for.
We can't do this without the community. So we need everybody to do their part. Do your home hardening. Make your home fire safe, as safe as possible. Listen to CAL FIRE when they talk about defensible zones.
So community members should be prepared. They should do their defensible space work. They should have their go bags ready. They should register for Everbridge. All of those things that are super important for just preparedness.
The work that all of us are doing on this is to reduce the risk and give our firefighters the best, safest opportunities to engage a fire if something were to happen.
The story of the Ring Fire and the subsequent efforts by YSS, the Forest Service, and Tuolumne County is a testament to the power of collaboration. Together, they are changing the way we manage our forests and protect our communities. Projects like Cerro are building a future where forests and communities thrive together. The lessons learned here in Tuolumne County will serve as a model for forest management worldwide.
So Access Tuolumne provides an array of broadcasts. Oh, thank you. The mic. I should know that. Access Tuolumne provides an array of broadcast and production services to the county, including unique services in emergency situations at less than the cost of a single employee. And the existence of this contract allows us to serve the community with coverage of dozens of community events each year. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. And was that the conclusion also of the slideshow presentation? Was there more onto there or no?
That's concluded, yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right, thank you. This is a presentation and report, so it's not for any necessarily direction or action today, but we'll bring it back to the board for any questions, comments, or discussions.
Yeah.
Supervisor Kirk?
First of all, I just want to say thank you for that video. I think we talked about this a year and a half, 2 years ago after OES. No, don't worry. Things take time. After OES had a presentation, and I think I was talking to Western Interstate, or had a meeting. They were talking about forest health, and I told them about Cerro. Actually, I told them about Cerro several years ago, but it came up, and they kind of got it. But then when I saw that OES video, I was like, Jerry, can you please make a Cerro project video so I can share this with the folks? And you got halfway done a while ago, but to see it completed, I can finally take this, share it with the Western Interstate folks, share it with really anybody. When I go back to DC, I'll make meetings with legislators, congressmen, people to show them this. It's a very simple video and the effectiveness of it. So thank you for doing that. It's really a great piece. And I want to share with you something maybe to add on for the future of where Cerro's headed. So thank you for your work on that. One of my only questions is, Jerry, is the denial of service attacks that we've been getting on during board meetings. Do you guys have any sort of protection or firewall or something built in to kind of protect those during board meetings so we don't have those attacks where you guys have to shut down the meeting and get back online? Do you guys have anything built in? Because I think a while ago I asked Roger, and Roger's like, well, it's not a county function, it's Access Tuolumne. So do you have anything
So initially, I have to say that I'm not an IT professional. When the situation was happening, and we're live in the show, so I can't do anything about it. I can't disturb the broadcast. I called IT professionals and I described what I was seeing, and I asked if could this be a denial of service, and the response was yes, it could. Since then, we have determined that that server needs to be replaced. It's at end of life. This morning, it was giving the same sort of filling up. Basically, it runs, don't be too technical, but it usually runs that server runs about 50% of resources, and it went up to 98% of resources, just this one executable file, and it started stuttering the video. So all of our servers have been running for 6 years, 24/7, and that's past their life. So as soon as, hopefully, that server will get through this meeting and tomorrow's meeting, and it will be replaced. So I was wrong thinking what it was. That's the best information I had at the time. It's actually the equipment.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Which is a good thing, because that means we're not being attacked.
But to my point, is there anything in prevention to potentially keep from attacks?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Like
we have the
firewall or
security edge feature from Comcast that blocks it as a firewall, basically. And we did have more traffic, quite a bit more traffic than usual, but the IT professional that ended up working on our servers, Sean Hall, said that that traffic, while extraordinary for us, that happens a lot. And people are just trying to poke holes in things, and it wasn't so much that should overwhelm our servers.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Supervisor Griefer?
Excellent video. As you know, I sit on your board, your committee. I've seen all the work that you guys do behind the scenes. It's a great tool for our community to be able to log in. I know as a new supervisor, it was helpful for me to be able to go back in time to all of those meetings and kind of find the history of how we've got to where we are on certain topics. One of the things I think you should have highlighted is that the work with the kids you did in Chinese camp.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Put together a little news, maybe you could explain what you did with the Chinese camp.
Oh, they just did kind of a faux news show, basically like a half-hour, fast-paced news program you might see on local television, Channel 13 or 10, something like that. But basically, all the stories were about their school and, how recess works, and because these are third or fourth graders.
Right.
Crisis
on the playground.
Yeah. So
denial of extra desserts.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
those kind of things.
So we jazzed it up quite a bit with. They shot it, and then we jazzed it up with little graphics and things like that. It was a fun job, and we hope to be doing more of that. And in fact, we're launching a second channel, an educational channel. By the way, since I mentioned that. Through the agreement, that DIVCA agreement, we can launch additional channels. So if we had the capacity ourselves, not just have an educational channel, but a separate government and a separate public access channel, if we so desired. Right now, we're doing all in one.
I just want to, it's great work. I know one of my colleagues has a channel on there. Listen to him from time to time speak. So. It's good. It's a great tool. I really support this organization, and I really commend you and the team and all the volunteers that make it happen. So thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Campbell?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Jerry, for the video and the presentation. One of the things I wanted to ask about is the way you're funded. So you mentioned in your presentation about PEG fees, and that initially was something that really attracted me to the idea of this, where we now are with the contract, because can you explain a little bit about that? So that these are fees that are collected by the cable companies. They go to you for equipment. Does the county contract pay for that equipment, or is that all paid for out of PEG fees?
We're funded in, there's two different revenue streams that come from the cable companies. One is a PEG fee. It is a optional 1% fee that the county chose to assess, or rather have Comcast assess on their cable customers. This 1% fee is specifically for a PEG channel and a PEG facility. It's a reciprocal thing. The cable customers pay for it, and the cable customers in turn receive the channel and the service. So that's a 1% fee. We receive that, and we have always received that since the agreement in the 1980s. However, that fee is a restricted fee. It can only be used for equipment and facilities. So we've had this asset, again, since the 1980s, and not until about 4 years ago with the agreement that we reached with the county was there any sort of funding for a staff to actually operate this public access channel. And that's where the second part comes in. The county receives a franchise fee from the cable operators. It is also negotiated in the 1980s and then revised in DIVCA, which the state took over this in 2013, 2017, something like that. Anyhow, the county receives 5% of the gross revenues from the cable companies for gross revenues from cable. And this is for a right-of-way fee, basically, for them to install their lines. Up until 4 years ago, that 5% went directly to the general fund and was used as any other funds. So we came to the board 4 years ago, to this board 4 years ago, and asked, can we have a percentage of that 5%, 25% of the 5%, to operate the channel, to have be able to pay salaries, be able to have somewhat of a staff. And that is the contract that we're currently under. And that contract it doesn't expire. Contract goes to June 30th, and it has an option for a 3-year extension. So that's what we're talking about today.
And where I'm getting at with this is that, so the county, when the county's paying for the service through Access Tuolumne, it's actually getting a lot of benefits through PEG fees, through equipment rentals, also through people that have shows on Access Tuolumne that pay for that. So
yes.
So like I write a check to Access Tuolumne for the video production services for a show that I host on Access Tuolumne. So all that money is coming into Access Tuolumne. The county is getting the benefit from all of it, even though we're only paying for the service.
Correct.
The direct service. Okay, thank you.
Right, and I'm happy you went into the history there too. You know, this was an item that first came up my first year on the board too, and I've always appreciated what you and Access Tuolumne have done in terms of filming our meetings and that. I was hesitant about the idea of hiring. We had a big discussion in-house, out-of-house, full-time, not full-time, and I think I was on the other side of that and wanted to see it continue, but I was hesitant. I've seen the value over the years, for sure. I've seen it in the meetings of being able to allow people to watch this, and it's done with a lot less resources than I think people kind of realize. So when there may be issues that may not necessarily, like with the servers, be on Access Tuolumne, that could be simply the finances of it. The Cyril project, the idea that we have to be really good storytellers, it's great to have an in-house team that can produce a high-quality professional video on the issues that we know but are not well understood around the state. I think that's something we can do, whether it's housing or homelessness or fire insurance and forest management, watershed management. I know Sean's got a grant working on trying to analyze that. If we want to go pitch this to some of these downstream users and say, maybe you can help us take care of our neck of the woods because it's also your neck of the woods. We don't have the money to course them. We certainly don't have the staff to go pull together a 1 billion-page report onto it. Sarah's great, but we probably don't have enough lawyers to sue San Francisco. Sarah, do we? No, probably not. What we can do is be really good storytellers, but that is, you know, as much what you're saying as the medium too. So all to say is, I was wrong. I think what we looked at first, which was a more financially conservative approach I was looking at, I think would have been the incorrect decision. The investment I've seen, I think it not only saves us money, it's a huge asset in our toolbox if we want to go and, I mean, for anything we're trying to do, like you said, public education, lobbying, transparency, a lot of other areas don't have that, so. All right.
Thank you.
Supervisor Holland?
Actually, I do have a question.
Yeah.
So if this has been in place since the 80s and it only funded equipment and stuff, what happened? What were they doing with the money from 1980 to 4 years ago? Like, how much money are we talking? Where'd the money go? Because, like, if there's no staff, like, what was happening here?
So I
'Cause
took.
I just don't know. So.
Right. So I can give you a little bit about that. I came on the scene in 2018.
Okay.
And for 3 years of there, I didn't really have a salary. I was just building this and, getting work where I could before I got this contract. But what appealed to me is, why do you take a job that has no salary? So what appealed?
Volunteer work. Yeah. Yes, that's called volunteer work.
Yeah, right.
Well, we're looking for more. If anybody else
Yeah.
are looking for some.
So what appealed to me is that PEG fund had grown, and it had grown quite a bit. So I was able to purchase, okay, at the time, just back up, we were only a cable-only service. There was basically a PowerPoint on the screen all day except for some local government meetings, and those local government meetings were run off of VHS tape. So that's what I walked into.
Nice.
All right. So I went and I bought, a 4-server system to allow us to, and put us online, to allow us to reach in so many other ways. I purchased a van. I purchased a lot of equipment. That's where that PEG fund went. So probably when I walked in, it was about, I'd say about $300,000 that had built up in that PEG fund. And now it's about half that. We've been, despite the fact that we had to buy all of this very expensive equipment, we've maintained, once we had that initial purchase, we've maintained a budget so that we never spend more than we receive. That's going to get challenging down the road because those fees, because people are leaving cable, dwindles. But we're working on that because we're getting third-party clients. So it's probably more than you asked for, but yeah, there was some money built up when I showed up.
So you just volunteered to start with, hoping to get a paycheck, and now we got one. I'm just trying to understand the story behind it. So there was no one else, like, who put the thing on the screen for 20 years? Like
There was a station manager before me. He had left a couple years before, and it was being caretaken by volunteers. I think Jim Garaventa was recording, and there was an older woman who people might remember, a very nice lady whose name escapes me, who shot the VHS. I'm pointing over there because that's where she stood on a little platform there.
Okay.
And she
I thought
shot.
you were pointing to Andy. I was
Yeah,
like,
sorry.
Nice.
So, there were some volunteers. And there was actually clients. We still do have a couple clients, some church clients and things like that. So I would say earned revenue when I walked in the door was about $10,000. And then I started gathering more clients and, building, some sort of salary from
So
that.
you guys do stuff for, like, I didn't know, like, if I want the Mike cooking show.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Bring it on. Let's do it.
Or for Carol, the Mike dressing show, I guess, apparently, different outfits.
We have asked Carol if she wanted a show, actually. I think it would be a very colorful program.
How about Make It with Mike?
Oh, I don't know.
What do you think?
So, it's public access. It's, we charge Ryan just because it's staff time. But otherwise, everyone can utilize this platform.
Interesting. I just didn't know. Thanks for.
You're welcome.
I'd watch your home improvement show. Supervisor Grief, do you have more? Yeah.
No, I just think we should have, a cooking show, Jaron, you can fire it up and follow along with Jaron's cooking.
You do not want to know how bachelor-y my cooking is.
No,
Yeah.
all right. We'll let that one go. But the last thing I want to say is all the equipment is owned by you guys in here, right?
Purchased through the PEG fee,
right?
yes.
And so there's that. And then I do want to give a big shout out to the guys in the back who actually make it happen back there. They're the unsung heroes.
And that's IT in the back, too.
Was that?
It's IT guys too, yeah.
You know,
Just
Jerry's
kinda-
just a big charming smiling face up front, but the guys who make it happen are back there. So big thank you.
All right. With that, if there's no more questions or comments.
Actually, I do have a,
Supervisor
I have a
Kirk?
question, because with the contract coming up in June, what, is that coming before the board? Is it in budget? Is it today? Because I have had an entity reach out wanting to know what the RFP process was gonna be, just because they wanted to know what it entailed.
Yeah, the contract does have language that states that we can renew it for an additional 3 years, I believe is what it says. So that'll be a board decision if you want to renew it or if you want to go out to RFP.
So when does that come before the board?
We probably need to bring it on the 17th because it expires on the 25th of June,
Okay.
the 30th of June, sorry.
Great. Okay, so with that, we'll open up public comment on this item, and then afterwards, we'll be going to a brief break. So anybody who would like to speak on this, please come up. You'll have 3 minutes. Apparently Ben didn't get enough screen time today.
Yeah, I know.
Well done, by
So,
the way.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Benjamin Kossel. I'm the Public Affairs Officer for the Stanislaus National Forest. And while I'm speaking today concerning some of my gratitude from the Forest Service with the work with Access Tuolumne, I'm not speaking on behalf of the Forest Service. I want to be very clear about that. What a wonderful gift Tuolumne County has in Access Tuolumne. In this day and age of fractured media landscape, where communications and getting a consistent message out to our residents is nearly impossible, to have someone like Access Tuolumne that we can go to, that we can help get the message out, along with the Union Democrat and My Motherlode, those 3 sources for information, whether it be just the deep dive understanding of what we're doing on the forest, or whether it's emergency communication. We cannot rely on the current media landscape that we have, whether that be Twitter, whether that be Facebook, the social media channels. It's just too fractious. There's too many trolls out there. There's all the challenges that we face in working with that. Having those singular authoritative sources from a local individual matters in a place like Tuolumne County. And I hope the board understands and realizes what an amazing gift that they have with the work that Access Tuolumne is doing. And I hope, I know we've been in conversations with them as well, to do further work to help people understand more about what we're doing on the Cerro project, what we're doing out there on the forest, broadly speaking, and some of the issues facing, us in Tuolumne County and here on the Stanislaus National Forest. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much.
Great, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Oh, well, still good morning. Got up so early today. I'm here on behalf of, I'm Ann Segerstrom, currently mayor of Sonora, and I am here on behalf of myself as a former board member of Access Tuolumne and Councilmember Plummer, who is the current board member, to endorse your renewal of the Access Tuolumne contract. As Mark and I talked about this, I mean, coming from San Francisco, Tuolumne County is literally a communications desert. And Access Tuolumne provides both public information and educational content that's really valuable, and it's a source that many people can tap into where other sources aren't available. And while it's not exactly a tin can and string operation, it does run on a shoestring budget and provides amazing assets to all of us. So please, do consider the renewal of that contract. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Incidentally, I'll be back to comment on the moose.
Good. Good morning.
Good morning, supervisors. My name is Brian Thomas, and I serve as the Director of Innovation for the Tuolumne County Superintendent of Schools, and as the Chair of the Board of Directors for Access Tuolumne. I want to take a moment to recognize the incredible work of Access Tuolumne, a nonprofit organization that has served the voice of Tuolumne County for decades. Access Tuolumne's mission is about more than television. It's about connecting local voices, giving a platform to share their stories, celebrate local creativity, and foster civic engagement. Access Tuolumne's Board of Directors represents a diverse cross-section of our county, including one of you, multiple of you, ensuring that the station reflects the richness and diversity of Tuolumne County itself. As we move forward with the launch of our education channel, I see this as a powerful new chapter in our partnership. The Ed Channel will be 100% education content, delivering both robust statewide programming and critically locally produced content that celebrates Tuolumne County students, teachers, and community leaders. Access Tuolumne's studio and production support makes this possible, bringing local content to life and ensuring it resonates with families throughout our county. Today, I respectfully ask that the Board of Supervisors continue to support Jerry and Access Tuolumne Board by approving the ongoing budget that sustains this important work. Your support allows Access Tuolumne to remain a vital platform for local voices and a cornerstone of our community's creative and civic life. Together with Access Tuolumne, we can amplify local stories, expand educational opportunities, and build a stronger, more connected Tuolumne County. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Leonidas Russell, League of Women Voters of the Mother Lode. The mission of the League of Women Voters is to defend democracy and empower voters. An educated voter is an empowered voter. Access Tuolumne, with their broadcasts and rebroadcasts of local public agency meetings, are supportive of this mission. All county citizens benefit from the transparency provided by this service. Openness in government is crucial for an informed electorate. Our local League of Women Voters of the Mother Lode has greatly appreciated their airing and re-airing of our candidate forums. This service has played an important part in the role in enabling voters to make an informed decision. The recent grand jury report raised questions about transparencies of past and present boards of supervisors, and we share those concerns. We strongly suggest that this board support the government transparency provided by Access Tuolumne. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
My name is Jake Edmondson, and full disclosure, I've been involved with Access Tuolumne for a while. I've been a volunteer, I've been a board member, I've been a contractor, I've been a producer, I put shows on, and I've learned an amazing amount. I'd like to start by saying I'm not speaking for any of these organizations that I happen to work with when I also worked with Access Tuolumne. But the Center for a Nonviolent Community did a pretty good special called Love Doesn't Have to Hurt. And it's available on demand right now. If you have any constituents who perhaps need domestic violence or sexual abuse services, Access Tuolumne can give them that now. I worked with the disabled community on 4 different theatrical performances, all at my act. These are groups like Watch and Special Olympics and things like that. And Jerry's aired all of our shows, and they're still available. And it means something to these actors who say, I was in a play, you know, they paid me $5, and I would like you to watch it. Let's go watch it now together. They can do it because of Access Tuolumne. Also, I've worked with the religious community, but in a way that I'm a little bit surprised, because Jerry has drawn volunteers from the people who do the shows for the religious community, and I've met them, and we've worked together, and they've worked on my shows. Okay, local musicians are good. You know about the musical talent we have in Tuolumne County. They can do traditionals, they can do spirituals, they can do originals. And there's a huge focus on our musical talent. Poetry out loud, Cinco de Mayo, I could go on and on. But I'm very proud of what this does for our community, because it pulls people together. Thank you very much. I urge you to do all you can to support what he's doing.
Great, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Board. My name is Larry Jensen. I'm a District 1 resident, and I bring you a message from Kathleen Hoff.
Board, Kathleen Haff here, former chair of Access Tuolumne and former Board of Supervisors member. As you know, our county's only TV station, Access Tuolumne, is superb for local news and events. They are now mobile and go out into the field at a moment's notice. An example of this would be for fires or emergency events. Over the past 4 years, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, Access Tuolumne has been navigated by an industry expert, that is Jerry Day, and his background was in KPIX for 7 years. Now, a way to get the message out for the outstanding leadership Tuolumne County has taken in forest health is evidenced by the Cerro Project. You just got finished watching that video. That is one of the many benefits that Access Tuolumne offers. Access Tuolumne is less expensive because they are a 501c3 organization. It cannot be duplicated by government for less, nor should it be. It needs to be separate for accountability, and it needs to be projected by a not-for-profit entity. PEG funds, PEG stands for Public Education and Government, as defined by DIVCA, supports PEG channel facilities. A PEG channel is only a place on a cable channel system. The cable channel customers are the ones paying for the PEG fee. Therefore, a Zoom recording of the board meetings or an internet-based local news station recording and delivery of the board meetings does not qualify for the legal use of PEG funds, nor does it serve the customers who pay for it. Further, PEG funds cannot be used for anything other than PEG facilities. Another point I'd like to make is that the grand jury report, the most recent one, covering government transparency, you probably already have gathered that Access Tuolumne is the best current avenue for conveying government transparency, and the emphasis should be on increasing this public awareness through Access Tuolumne. Bottom line, the Access Tuolumne contract is for government services. Conclusion, Access Tuolumne contractual agreement with our county government allows for the continuation of the public access channel. The value there is a full-time station manager, currently 3 relief employees, all costing less than 1 county employee, with a much broader capability than just recording board meetings.
Great. Excellent.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good morning.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Howard White. I am a small business consultant here in Tuolumne County, also on boards of several organizations, including Love Tuolumne County. And I'm here to also express briefly my support for Access Tuolumne, who provides a number of valuable services, as you've seen. And I gotta say that quality of that presentation that Jerry made is definitely of high quality, good professionalism, and we are fortunate to have that in our county. But one of the most valuable services, and I'll agree with Kathleen Haff, Supervisor Haff, who said that the services is assisting in public service and transparency and openness of decisions made by governing boards, which is also captured by Access Tuolumne, including these Board of Supervisors meetings. Many people review these discussions and decisions made by the boards, especially if they're unable to attend these meetings in person. Board of Supervisors have publicly stated they want to make great efforts to be transparent to their communities that they support, and it would be difficult to replace this method of transparency with any other method. So I also strongly recommend the Board of Supervisors continuing this valuable service, especially when it comes to tough choices that you're going to have to make, you continue to make, with regards to funding various projects. This is important. I want to say thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Board. Dory Beats, Tuolumne County Office of Emergency Services. Part of our job in an emergency service is preparedness. And it's not a part of the job that you always get a lot of money in budgets for. And so anytime we get money for education and outreach, which is pivotal, is usually attached to a grant. So I want to thank Jerry and his staff. Every single time we wanted to project or get the word out about something without hesitation, they made it happen and thought of some creative ways for us to do videos that are very, very important. They are a much needed vehicle for us, not only in OAS, but I think the entire county, as many have already stated. And we are incredibly grateful for the work that they do and the work that we know that they will continue to do for all of us. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Good morning again.
Good morning again. Is it still morning? Oh, it is. So I used to go to all the Access Tuolumne meetings way back when, and they were not pleasant experiences. And we owe a debt of gratitude, I think, to Carl Rodefer and Connie Williams, who endeavored to try to make Access Tuolumne, I can't even remember what it was called back then, better and on the way here. And then Jerry came, and the best thing that ever happened to Access Tuolumne was COVID. You know, when you had those little daily news shows, and then Kathy Parker contracted with you to have people read when we were all homebound, and I'd never read The Velveteen Rabbit, and B.J. Hansen's wife read it to me. So I thought that was pretty impressive, and I want to thank Kathleen for talking about Phoenix Rising from the Ashes, because that's what I've seen. And when we used to have Granicus was extremely expensive, and it didn't really work well for everything. So I've just been so impressed with what Access Tuolumne has become in the past few years, and I'm really sorry I didn't wear my Access Tuolumne shirt because you did bribe me with one. But I wanted to wear purple today, and they have enticed me to do a program. But I just think you've been amazing, and I tell people if, you know, to businesses, most of you remember when Yanni came down here, and if you want to get information out about your new business or any information about what's going on in the community, this is the best place to come, despite some of your behavior up there at times. But a lot of people listen to these programs. They listen in their office, they listen on their radio, they listen live stream. You can go back and check on the computer. And our news media doesn't always get information out. So I just think they're really great at increasing our public awareness. So thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hello again, Board. Firstly, I'd just like to echo Mayor Segerstrom's comments. I completely support her comments. This is an essential piece of our government. So often we talk about the legislative, the executive, the judicial branches, and we forget about that fourth estate, which is a free press to report, keep us transparent and honest. I have worked and served on damn near every committee in this county, and I've worked with many executive directors. I can say unequivocally that for every dollar that this man gets, we're going to get at least 10 times return on investment on that. I mean, honestly, it's immeasurable, the value that Access Tuolumne provides to the community. I don't think there's a single person that does more with less than Jerry Day. I speak as a former board member. I speak as someone who's been on Supervisor Campbell's program before. It is such a gift to the community, and it should be a no-brainer to renew this contract. Jerry, thank you so much for everything that you do, your entire crew. Please renew this contract.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, I believe we are closed on this at 10:50. Jerry, thank you for the presentation.
So I did have some comments to make.
Oh, okay. Supervisor Campbell?
If there are no other comments, because we did questions and so yeah, and I really appreciate the comments of the community and Jerry's presentation. Just to kind of give some background about how we ended up contracting with Access Tuolumne. Those of you who are on staff long enough know that one of the things that I complained about I think Heather Ryan might be around here, complained about a lot is our previous vendor for video services. It's very unreliable. Notwithstanding we had a recent issue with the server, it's been pretty worry-free, the video services that Access Tuolumne has provided. And prior to that, during COVID-19, when people were receiving and sharing their voices through video media, it was terrible because we had an out-of-county contractor. We didn't have the kind of the ability to call them up and say, hey, can you fix this problem today? Like we do with Jerry and Access Tuolumne. When they have a problem, they are on it immediately and they start fixing it. That was not the case forever in the county until we started working with Access Tuolumne for these services. So the point is, if we want to maintain the level of transparency and have our meetings published live and then available for streaming later, we have to contract with somebody to do those services, and we have to spend some kind of money to do those services. I think this is it's not only the cheapest option, it's the best option. And that's informed by my experience in the past. We had a contractor, it was mentioned here earlier, very expensive, and the service level was terrible. I mean, it was cutouts and interruptions of service almost every single board meeting. And if you go back to the COVID years and try to watch those meetings, you'll see that it was very unreliable service, and we're at a much better spot now. So I am just really excited about the future of this, and I learned about a lot of services that Access Tuolumne provides that I didn't even know about. And then the last thing I'll say is that when you look at the videos that have the highest viewership, it's things like the Washington fire, like the Canyon fire, elections, clearly public service where people know when the chips are down and they need information, that's where they go. So Access Tuolumne clearly has that kind of a reputation where people will go there for unbiased, immediate, quick information about something they need to know. So I think that's a real testament to the work that Jerry does.
Supervisor Holland?
Actually, I got one more question I was thinking of. So the PEG fees are separate than the contract you have with the county, right?
Correct.
In generality, what are because I know people are going to DirecTV and stuff where you would not get PEG fees, correct? It's
Correct.
You literally have the cable into your house.
Mm-hmm.
What roughly is that dollar amount currently going on nowadays?
So I'm going to give you a rough number.
Yeah.
We dropped, when we started the contract 4 years ago, well, there's two fees. The PEG fee, the 1%, that was at about $90,000, and now it's about $80,000. And last year was the largest drop. We had we actually, so what's interesting about people leaving cable is we have, as you know, we have an older demographic. So those people are less likely to be turning off their cable. So in urban areas, this transition started a while ago. So we actually gained the first year out of the contract. And then since then, the last 3 years, and particularly last year, we dropped 8%. So roughly started at 90, peaked a little bit, 92, maybe 93, and dropped to $80,000 on that PEG fee. And you can just do the math. The franchise fee is, the PEG fee is a 1% fee, and the franchise fee, we're getting 25% of 5, so 1.25. So that number was up around 125, and that's close to 110 now.
Okay. And is that, like, just because I'm educating myself here as I'm talking about this, so the PEG fee, is that county-wide? Is the city separate than the county? Is there two different numbers there? Or is that, like, when you talk about that, is that our county as a totality?
This is county numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how does that compare, like, to the city? Then you get some out of the city numbers as well?
Well,
I guess I can ask the city, they're here, but.
yeah. The city is not sharing their PEG fee with us. So it's something we need to negotiate.
Okay. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So basically you guys have around 190,000, unless you have other contract sources, that's your guys' budget for the year to run all that.
Well, we have earned income, probably about $30,000, $25,000 to $30,000 in
From the outside
earned
sources you're
income
talking
from
about.
other sources.
Okay.
Right. So what it comes out to is our above, we'll say above the line, the unrestricted fund is around, budget is around $135,000, $140,000 right now. And then our equipment fund, if you want to call it that, the PEG fee is about $80,000.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Sorry, I was doing research on PEG fund, and then you asked a question about the city. What was it?
Oh, I was asking if the numbers you just give me was the county as a whole, or is it?
What would
Maybe
the
you're
city?
saying
What
the
would the
county and the
city's
city were
value be
different.
to it?
I'm sorry?
What would the city's value be to it if they paid the PEG fee?
So, is the city still here?
yeah.
I guess I'll try and speak for them. I presented before, they had not enacted a PEG fee. Okay, so the PEG fee the jurisdiction has the option of enacting a PEG fee, and that fund goes to a public access channel. So I approached the city, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, and asked them to enact a PEG fee. And they agreed to enact the PEG fee. But we have to this point not received that PEG fee.
So we don't know what the value of that it would be currently?
The value,
that fee?
I can't say for certainty. I imagine it's certainly somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 a year for their size. Yeah.
But if this is coming back to the board on June 17th, can I get that information? Just what that value would be? Just so you can get.
Well, you'd have to ask the city. I'm just estimating. They don't share
I
those
just thought
numbers.
maybe you might have it somewhere in history if you asked for it and it was agreed upon, if you have that. But it's fine.
Yeah, no, the city would have to tell you how much they're receiving in PEG.
I would imagine probably like 10% of our number, since 10% of the population lives in the city limits of the county.
Okay.
If I
So
had
we
to
could
guess,
get a
it'd probably be
reference.
like 8,000 maybe 10,000.
Maybe
But
if we can ask
we can find
nicely
that.
to our city
Well,
council
no,
mayor
I
and
don't think
vice
anybody,
mayor.
if this was 4 or 5 years ago, I don't know if anybody on the city is even aware of it. So maybe we could just work with the city to get that information.
Yeah.
It would.
Right, that's why I'm not throwing you guys under the bus because you weren't even there. So.
It was, yeah, and it was a couple city administrators ago, so, yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Great.
And, all right, do we have any more comments, questions, concerns? All right, with that, Jerry, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So we are going to be moving into our 10 a.m. appointment. Not quite an hour late, but we're going to do a 10-minute break too, because I said we're going to do one at 10, and you know how it goes. So we'll reconvene back at 11:10 a.m. All right. We are reconvening the Board of Supervisors meeting for our 10 a.m. appointment. If the clerk can read the item, please.
10 a.m. Consideration of providing direction on the fiscal year 25-26 recommended budget.
All right. And take it away. Good morning.
Good morning, Board. So yes, today we're going to be talking about more direction for the recommended budget. So on slide 2, there you go. We just wanted to go over again just the timeline of how we got to this moment and what's been going on before. So back in January, we were projecting a shortfall for next fiscal year of around $5.5 million. So at that time, your board made the decision to ask for 15%, to order 15% cuts for the general fund departments, excluding public safety, recreation and library, the grant cost centers, and a few other ones as well. And so you not only wanted that to be for next fiscal year, but you wanted that to be immediate. So to start in March, so that would also give budget reductions for the last third of this current fiscal year, and then well as to cover the shortfall for next year. So when the cuts went into effect in March, that resulted in about $2.6 million in savings for this fiscal year. And we are estimating right now that the general fund will have an ending fund balance for about $5.7 million for the end of this fiscal year and starting for next fiscal year. And this is available to right-size the organization, assuming revenues and expenses remain the same from January projections. And the next is just an update on our revenue projections. So starting with property tax, we reduced this by about $385,000 from the projection budget that was in January. And this is mainly due to just trends, the latest trends in property tax revenue. For sales tax, we reduced it by a little bit just because there's been basically no growth for a couple years. And so we reduced it down to the year-end projection amount of $6.5 million. And then for the TOT, this is where we saw the biggest decline in all these revenues. So we lowered it by about $1.6 million, and this is mainly just because of the decline in visits to Yosemite, especially that we've been hearing about. And we thought this was the best way to kind of go on that lower side. And then for A87, we actually upped it from the projection amount by about $589,000. The year-end projection, $7.6 million. In January, we're projecting $6.6 million, but we decided to up that estimate up to $7.2 million. That would be a better estimate. So in total, we reduced our revenue projections, general revenue projections, by $1.7 million, which was quite significant. However, we'll get into some other factors that helped offset that. So in terms of the general fund summary for next fiscal year, in the budget right now, there's a 10% overall average reduction in net county costs across all the general fund cost centers. The budget is not yet balanced, so there's still numbers coming in. There's still numbers that we need. And there's still some opportunity to invest for the future to right size. So in terms of ongoing challenges, operational costs continue to rise by 5 to 6%, even with directed no growth. So for instance, you did not want growth in public safety, recreation, and library. You didn't want cuts, but you wanted no growth. But there's still some growth because you have employees that are still working through their steps. You still have inflation. A lot of services and supplies are still going up. Sometimes you have mandated software or things like that that departments need to have. That's an extra expense that they really can't do without. So there's things like that that continue to, as well as mandated costs, insurance, that will just continue to increase costs as time goes on. And then also unpredictable factors each year. So we talked about the revenues going down 1.7 million, but then we had a big reduction in workers' comp and liability costs for next year, and that helped offset that. So there's thousands of line items in the budget, and some of these can have a big price swing that will impact the budget as a whole. And so those are some of the factors that can come into play that can be surprising year to year. And then when it comes to positions, we are not proposing any additional layoffs, so that would be filled positions that we're eliminating. So there's none for next fiscal year like we had for mid-year. There are some vacant positions that are proposed to be eliminated in next year's budget. There's 4 in CDD, Community Development Department, as well as 1 in air pollution. This was the air pollution director position. And then also we're freezing 1 in surveyor and then 1 in victim witness. There's a conversion in probation. And then also 1 position added in the DA's office for deputy district attorney. And this is totally funded by AB 109 revenue. And unlike last year at this time, we're not talking about using reserves or instituting furloughs in order to help balance the budget. So that is a big difference from last year at this time.
All right. And we should have mentioned this at the outset, but as is become pretty customary these days with budget presentations, we had some early morning changes. So you can see the highlight here on the presentation. So there are updates updated presentations on the dais for your board and then in the back as well. So
Thank
the
you for
highlights
always getting
represent.
us the most up-to-date info.
Say that again?
I said, thank you for always
Oh.
getting us the most up-to-date info.
Sure, yeah. So again, focusing, today's presentation is primarily, well, it's exclusively really focused on the general fund. We had hoped to bring in more conversation about our Health and Human Service Agency funds as well as like our road fund, but we're still working through stuff. And so this is just a general fund summary for the most part today. So as far as what is included in the budget at this point, again, as Sean mentioned, the budget is not currently balanced, and so there's still opportunity to move things around. We are still actively moving things around, I should say. So the estimated general fund balance, as Sean referenced earlier in the presentation, was about $5.7 million. Your board has budget policies that guide how we as staff develop the budget. I did include those in the agenda, and we will go into a deeper dive, I think, on the 17th and into the future as well about those budget policies. And because those are important. Those are important guiding principles. One of the things that's in the budget policy currently is that your board has authorized the use of some of this fund balance to balance ongoing operations into the next year's budget. So fund balance really is what's left over. Either what was unspent or additional revenue that came in that we had not projected. In this case, because of all of the reductions that we made at mid-year, we had a pretty significant amount left over. But to be really clear, this was not like it was a unintentional surplus. This was very intentional, as we all know. We've discussed this numerous times in the past many months. This was very intentional reductions that were set aside to be able to invest into the future. We've been using this term right size a lot. And so that was the intention with this fund balance. And so the 5.7, so 50% of the 10-year average of fund balance is $1.5 million. That is technically, according to your board's budget policy, what could be used to fund ongoing operations into next year. So based on where we are at the budget right now, we are using about almost $1.3 million of that fund balance to budget ongoing operations next year. So we are still using fund balance for next year. Remember, about $2 million of that fund balance comes from salary savings from vacant positions, primarily from the hiring freeze that your board instituted. Those salary savings, for the most part, are ongoing. They will be budgeted next year. Those positions, these are not positions that were laid off. And so, in theory, the idea is that this is ongoing expenses that we had last year, ongoing expenses we had this year. So it's not out of line, all this to say, although I have heard your board here on the dais talk about maybe some interest in revising this portion of the budget policy, and that's something that we can look at as we move forward into next fiscal year. So we are also what's in the budget is we are rebudgeting contingencies that was unspent from last year. So we had about $1.1 million separate from what was cut at mid-year in contingencies, and so we rebudgeted that at just an even $1 million. Your board's budget policy actually references that contingencies should be budgeted at 1% of the general fund minus all of the grant fund cost center. So it actually ends up being, to meet your board's budget policy, it ends up being a little bit more than that, but we just kept it at $1 million for now. The other times of the recommended budget, we have even reduced contingencies down to like $750, or that's in times where we've really had to squeeze and work every angle possible to get a balanced budget. Also, what's in the budget currently is $500,000 transferred out to capital for large maintenance projects. We're not proposing any significant additions to capital projects this year, only continuing with what we have in the works currently this year, which would be primarily the Sheriff's Dispatch Center and the homeless housing projects and the HVAC project over at the A&F building. These other large maintenance projects are not quite capital in that kind of large building sense, but pretty significant maintenance projects. That also we will have included on the 17th as far as a list of what those projects are. And then we also have a repayment for the Yanni Courthouse elevator of $518,000. This is something we are required to do because of the intra-fund
Internal Service Fund.
Yeah, because we borrowed from those, and so we have to pay ourselves back. And so this also includes interest, which we're required to pay. So in total, this leaves about $2.4 million left over of fund balance that is available, again, for your board to look at future investments. Okay, so just speaking of those budget policies, I wanted to highlight some things that are not currently in the budget, just to keep on your board's radar. The first thing is our annual contribution to our general reserves. So the board's budget policy currently states that you would contribute at least $500,000 a year until reserves get to 7% of all governmental funds. We haven't done the math yet, I don't think, but we're around 2.4% or so of what our reserves should be, according to that policy. We don't typically put anything toward reserves at recommended. We almost always wait until, or probably always, I'm looking at, oh yeah. Yes, always wait until the adopted budget, but this is just for your board to keep in mind that this is something that we probably should do. That's not in the budget right now. Also, as I mentioned, there's another $110,000 that could be put into contingencies to fully fund contingencies at the level of your board's budget policy. Furthermore, what's currently not in the budget is anything additional to pay down our PERS unfunded liability beyond. We currently have $500,000 budgeted in the budget right now, additional to pay down our PERS unfunded liability, but we don't have anything above and beyond that. The last few years, I think 2, maybe 3 years, we've been budgeting at least $1 million toward paying off our PERS unfunded liability or paying down our PERS unfunded liability. So also, another thing that's not currently in there, but something that your board could consider that's a part of your budget policy is aggressively paying off debts. So we have our lowest debt that we currently have is our public safety PERS debt. We took out a bond a handful of years ago to pay off some of that debt that we had for some of our public safety PERS unfunded liability. So the remainder on the principal is just about $5 million. But if we carry this debt through the duration of the loan, we would pay an additional $1.6 million in interest. And so it's actually something that your auditor had brought up. It's just something that you might want to consider using excess fund balance for, or something that you might want to prioritize is aggressively paying off that debt to avoid all of that interest. And then lastly, we have that $500,000 in for large maintenance projects. But as you know, our buildings could use significantly more funding than that. And so there's, beyond that $500,000, there's nothing else. And then these are not board budget policy items, but they are other items of board interest, I believe. So the first would be any needed improvements to occupy the vacant courthouses so that we can leave rented spaces and occupy our county-owned spaces. There are some minor renovations, we'll call them, or repairs, upgrades in some instances that would be needed, say, to occupy the vacant courthouses, like on Washington Street and over here at Yaney. We are obtaining estimates for some of those needed repairs, but there's nothing currently in the budget to get us into those buildings. And then finally, there is nothing currently for future employee bargaining. As your board knows, this is an ongoing cost. And we just included some examples here to give a picture of what that might look like. So as an example, across the entire organization, so not just the general fund, but the entire organization, a 1% COLA for all employees would be $669,000. A 5% COLA would be $3,345,000. And then, of course, that just continues on up. So again, that's just an example, just something to keep in mind. This is something that we've heard your board discuss in the future, and so there's nothing in here currently for that either. And then lastly, your board had made some requests on May 6th about what to do with that fund balance. Now, of course, we didn't have all of the budgets in from all of the departments at that point, so we didn't quite know where everything was going to land. Also, Supervisor Griefer wasn't here that day. And so we've had some time to refine the costs. And so these were the items that were presented. Specifically, we have a clearer picture of what the employee positions would be. And so if you were to use that remaining $2.4 $2.4 million to fund these items. That would be a total of 1.7, just about $1.8 million in cost, leaving $634,000 remaining of fund balance. So we're just looking for board direction today on how to balance the general fund. We have those requests from your board, and then there's also, as I mentioned, all of those other investments and opportunities for your board to right-size the organization, to look at investing into the future. Staff's recommendation, just to be very clear, is to consider waiting on anything, any additional expenses or purchases or investments until we have final fund balance. Right now, we're estimating that $5.6 million, but so is our recommendation that we wait until the adopted budget in September, and that we move that $2.4 million into contingencies for now, just to wait and see how TOT comes in, see how everything lands. But obviously, your board has full discretion on what to do with that. And then also, if your board has any other additions or modifications you'd like to see included in the budget, as a reminder, we will be here on June 17th for your board to approve the recommended budget. And then we will be back in September to approve the adopted budget.
All right, great. Well, we will bring it back to the board, looking to my left and right. Supervisor Campbell, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I had a question, but I'm trying to remember what it was. Okay, so you mentioned September 23rd is the final adopted budget. You're proposing that the things that we discussed at the last board meeting and anything else that might come up today, that we set that aside, see where our fund balance is, and then finalize that, so that list of board requests at the September 23rd meeting.
Yeah, as well as those other items like your board budget policy items that also are not included, things like reserves, fully funded contingencies, some of that stuff. If you
Okay,
want
so we
to,
just put all that into
Yep.
contingencies, keep it there. September 23rd, we'll know what the actual picture is, and then we make decisions.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, and do we have any other questions? I think if we keep it to questions, then we can do public comment. I know probably a number of folks are wanting to speak on this. Supervisor Holland?
I always have budget questions. So I spent a lot of time with Liz and the finance team here. We're talking about stuff. I think something for the five of us to look at is one of our board policies about where it talks about the 50% of a 10-year rolling average rolls back in the next one. I don't think that's good long-term planning. I think every year should be able to fund every year, and then we make a choice if we're going to be short or over, because it's very hard to ever get ahead if you're constantly stealing any savings just to fund the operation the next year. So that tells me that the operation is not sized correctly, or we're not budgeting correctly, or we're not budgeting correctly, but maybe we need to look at our spending habits, because we should be able to match our revenue to our expenses on every single year and not keep pulling any possible savings we have from whatever it happens throughout the year. That's just my own personal opinion. I think we should look at. I think we should definitely look into paying down that public safety PERS situation.
Yeah.
If we have extra money, that's a question, like how much is that, if it's gonna save us, like how long would it take to,
And if,
do we do it sooner, is it better, obviously?
if we can keep it, just the questions. The only reason is, in case this does take a while, I don't want us to hit lunch and then not have the opportunity for the public to be able to speak and have to wait through that. That's the only thing.
I get it. It's just the most important thing we do.
Yeah.
Budget. So,
Listen to the public.
well, we can listen to the public first if you want. I'm gonna do this, but
Supervisor, just because you brought it up, I will say that in conversations with the auditor, we do have to do research about if there's any early pay down, early payment penalties or whatever, but
gotcha. Of course, the state would charge us a prepayment penalty, right, for giving them money. So I guess that's kind of my questions. I've gone over this a lot. Me and Liz have spent a lot of time talking about the budget, so I'm pretty familiar with it. So thank you for making the changes, Liz.
Welcome.
It made me much happier, so I guess that's my questions for you, Jen. I'll wait.
Thank you, Supervisor. Appreciate it. Supervisor Griefer, Supervisor Kirk after.
No, thank you. So you had mentioned moving out of rented spaces into property that we already own. Now, didn't the board in the past already spend money on coming up with plans for the Washington Street?
they did.
And the board chose not to move forward with that?
Yeah, you are taking me to the Wayback Machine. I think we put it out to bid, or at least we had an engineer's estimate. It was quite high.
Okay.
And so I think at that point, we chose to delay. In fact, actually, no, the board, I'm sorry, it's all coming back. The board made the decision, the direction to not move forward with that project. The Washington Street, or hold on the project at least for the
Okay, so we still have those plans,
future.
we still have the.
Correct.
So if we decided to kind of jumpstart, move forward, we're not gonna have to reinvent the wheel, I guess. That's what
Hope
my
not.
big concern is.
Now, it was designed for our public defender's office and our chief conflict counsel office. So, you know, if we wanted to maybe repurpose who was going into that building, you know, maybe, but probably not significant rework, I wouldn't imagine.
Okay. And then regarding the deputy district attorney funded by AB 109, is that a yearly? I mean, do we
It
get
is, it's an ongoing allocation. Mhm.
Okay, so that could potentially go away and we would have to then address what we're gonna do with that individual?
Well, I'm looking at our probation officer here. Yeah. It's an allocation we get as a part of realignment.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, the allocation may go down a bit. We have many positions that are funded by AB 109, not just this one position. So, you know, I suppose it could go away.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
anticipate.
no worries, I just saw that we have that one position, AB 109, and then on the board request was another deputy district attorney, and just wanna make sure that of understanding that one is funded another way, this would be one that we were to choose to bring on board.
That's exactly right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Kirk. Just Holland brought up the 10-year average thing, and I agree, like, when you think about your personal finances, how you budget, you go year to year, you don't go, what was my average the last 10 years? Because that's completely screwed for the household. But I do remember there was a very long conversation about it. I think the full board decided to go with that. Before we decide on that, could we figure out why we went down that path? Was it because there was budget team issues with projections? If it was because we were trying to get a better projection or planning, I get that. But if at the end of the day, we're trying to get closer to just using actuals when we're making decisions now, I could see why, yeah, if we're going to go with actuals, then we cut that process out. But if we're gonna go with more projections, then we like that 10-year average. I think that's, if I'm remembering, I think the average was for projections.
Well, it was more, the reason why we used an average is so that we would be conservative in our use of fund balance. This actually item came from Budget Team. Budget Team is the one that made this recommendation to ultimately to the CAO, who recommended it to your board to make the change. The whole idea was, if we have fund balance every year, can we really call it like one-time like one-time not reoccurring? We couldn't really, because it was reoccurring every year. In large part, fund balance comes from salary savings for positions that we had budgeted in one year that we also will have budgeted in the next year. So it's not like it's unpredictable, or it's not even like it's like we're unsure of where the savings came from, the fund balance, you know. So that was the idea. In previous, like years past, the direction was that we should not be using fund balance. And as we talked more about Budget Team, it was like, well, this exists every year. It's not really like it really is this like ongoing, you know. So where the money comes from, I think it's an ongoing source. That's all I'm saying. Although I hear what you're saying about the concept of our revenue should match our expenses,
Right.
our household budget. It's like it's not like you're looking at, oh, well, last year I have some savings, I'm gonna apply it as my income for next year. So, you know, I see both sides.
And if I could interject too, I remember this process and I remember my thinking about it. And part of the reasoning behind it is that we had this pattern of saying, you know, we're $4 million out, we're $3 million out, we're $5 million out. And then all of a sudden we bring in the contingency number and, we're only $1 million out. And so it was creating a perception in the public that we were saying that we had these large deficits and ignoring the fact that we have this large amount of recurring funds that's coming in. And so this was an effort to kind of eliminate that, to where we're actually looking at what the real cost is and not, incorporating the 10% of the recurring contingencies, to me, is a more accurate projection of what the finances is, rather than waiting till the end of the budget cycle and then shoring up all the leftover funds, if that makes sense. Because if we're not counting that money when we're balancing the budget and just waiting until the contingencies are realized, then to me, that's less accurate than it is if we say, okay, we have these funds that we don't realize until the end, let's use a portion of that while we're budgeting.
Well, I think what I'm saying is, we're using that money we're taking the savings from let's just call it last year, rolling into this year to help fund the operational cost. And I understand at the beginning of the year, it's all projections, right? It's the big guessing game. But if we're setting up a budget that can't operate within the projected revenue of that given year, that tells me we're off. And this would make sense to me, this rule, if our reserves were nice and fat and we had money. Yeah. But when I look at, we have reserves around $5 million, and we look at the city of Sonora, and they're sitting on $12 million, and our budget is a multiple times larger. We probably couldn't even fund payroll for 1 month off of our reserves. So that's a structural problem I think we need to address and look at, that we need to change, like, when we do have operational savings, or whatever you want to call it, from the decisions we've made, maybe that needs to go into the reserve, savings account, whatever we're going to call it. So when we need the rainy day fund, we have it. But if we keep borrowing from it, 50% of it or something, to run the operation the next year, we're never really truly climbing ahead. And so it's just hard for me to fathom that.
Yeah.
Our reserves are $5 million.
And worthy conversation. I know it's still Supervisor Kirk's time, as you can imagine.
Sorry.
I'd love to jump into this and have more too, but Supervisor Kirk, for questions.
No more questions. I'll comment on that.
Okay. I can hold anything for now. With the board's approval, I'd like to open it up for any public comment on our 10 a.m. appointment. Again, this is the consideration of providing direction on the 25-26 recommended budget. This is some of the updates, then also some of the future direction. So I'll be able to have 3 minutes to speak on this, and please feel free to come up. There we go. Sorry, I know. Tried to get you before I walked in. Said 10 a.m. appointment doesn't always mean 10 a.m.
Yeah, that's okay.
Welcome back.
Good morning still? Yes. Good morning, my name is Casey. I am a Jamestown small business owner and a homeowner and part of the promotion club of Jamestown. As you know, Jamestown has been struggling really, really bad. So I'm gonna keep this quick because it's gonna be an ongoing thing. But I'm here today to deliver these cards from our community members. Everyone is either a resident, a business owner in Jamestown, or a Tuolumne County resident. Each card signed and filled out with an address as well. So I'll just read you the card that each person has signed. It has come to my attention that the Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors is considering allocating money to revitalize Jamestown. As a community, we will come together to assure these funds are used to bring back our town to its heyday. As Jamestown is the gateway to the Sierras, we want to bring our residents, business owners, and tourists back to Main Street. We are dedicated to celebrating Jamestown as a representation of a historical California gold country town within Tuolumne County. We need your help to make this happen. Please support funding for Jamestown. Thank you for your time and consideration. And there's 94 cards. So here's 94 residents, business owners. So I hope that you guys can realize this is 94 people that signed these, and there'll be more to come. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I believe if you want to leave those with our clerk, we can be able to, it's going to be a lot to scan, but we'll endeavor to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Good morning still. I just have a quick question related to what originally brought me into this boardroom in the first place, and it's budget related because if you might recall, it was almost 3 years ago now, but I came here because I was concerned about the Jamestown Fire Department roof project. And that project was signed off on, and the contract was, I guess, given to the contractor. And I thought that money was already delegated for that. It was supposed to have been done in December of that year, which would be 2.5 years ago now. That project is still not done. And so I'm wondering what happened to that money. Did it somehow go back into the budget? Is the project still planning? Did the contractor ever call? I mean, what? I've asked a couple people. I'm getting no answers. It seems like a budget issue. It was $247,000 if memory serves me correctly. It's not a huge amount, but it was too much for that roof, which was why I came here. But again, that was sort of, it's a question that's been bothering me, and it seems like I just want to know what happens to these funds for these projects that get signed off on and then given to a contractor, and then somehow nothing happens. So I don't know if that project is still just waiting to be done, or if it's going to be rebid. Maybe the contractor backed out. I don't know. Anyways, that's my question. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do we have additional public comment on this item? Good morning again.
Good morning again, Quincy Yaley, Community Development Department Director. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to address one of the slides that talked about the elimination of vacancies in CDD and make sure that your board and the public understand that the reason that 3 of those are vacant is because county staff members left in anticipation of a layoff. And so had those individuals within the last 2 months not sought employment in other areas, those certainly would be layoffs. And so I just don't want to sugarcoat the actions that the county is taking by taking credit that there's no layoffs. Because in our department, there certainly would have been. Those were the last individuals hired into those classifications. And so to speak, they saw the writing on the wall. Overall, when we begin next fiscal year with the cuts that we've made as well as the cuts that are proposed, we will have eliminated 7.5 FTEs in our department. Currently, we're down 10.5 FTEs as we have frozen positions from this current fiscal year's budget actions that we are hoping we can fill. It will be many months as we go through the HR process to recruit individuals for that. And so my ultimate concern, and I just want to make sure your board is aware, is that cuts to my department as well as other cuts in other departments without changing the way that we deliver services to the public will just result in delays. Our department, as I've sent you out a budget summary of all of our cuts, we're always continuing and daily striving to improve our processes and reduce staff work where we can. But I just want to let you know that our department is eager to talk about how we can ensure that we are providing the best service to the public, and we're always available for those conversations. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you. I want to thank Quincy for coming up because I wasn't quite sure of all the information. So I know that she lost 2 of her beginning planners, which has had a huge impact because they were the ones that stood at the counter and answered the questions. So now if someone comes up and needs a question answered, you have to get a senior planner. And I don't want to pay Quincy to be at the counter answering basic questions. And I know she's been very impacted by something that I don't know that's been publicly addressed is Maria Sullivan left, which has had huge ramifications to lose someone in the county council's department. And then Scott Gross isn't here. I wish he was, because he gave me a little kind of tour of the Washington Street courthouse, and things that he expected to be left in place were actually torn up. So it appeared there would be more work than what he at least anticipated, but he should speak for himself. So I have a lot of concerns. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And do we have other public comment on this item? Going once, going twice? All right, I will close public comment on it and bring it back to the board now for discussion. And I believe Supervisor Holland, you had initially brought up the idea if you wanted to kick that off, or any other thoughts? I pulled your popsicle stick.
I think I said what I gotta say, so
Okay, great.
I'm sure something will come up in our conversation here, but.
Do we have any other discussion, conversation at the board? I'll say that on that point that was brought up, I do remember that discussion. I understand the reasoning of why fund balance is used. I didn't support it at the time. I still don't think it's a great practice as a standard. If we were in emergency and we needed to, we can make that decision, but I tend to agree. I'd rather put it to one-time expenses, paying off debt or deferred maintenance. Even if that means we have to make harder choices in the immediate term. I think you brought up a really good point about reserves, is if we are using this to fund the budget, as opposed to, say, putting it right into reserves, we're not really taking it out of services and our employees and all of that. It is stabilizing what otherwise would be a lot more of a boom-bust kind of thing. So we've been doing twice as much, I think, into reserves, and but starting at least to make, $500,000 a year into our unfunded PERS liability, and yet even after 4 years of doubling the budget policy into our reserves, we were still only at 2.4%. Compared to where we were at, it's better, but it's nowhere near what an organization our size should be. So
I would just say you should probably sit down with our auditor, controller, and our budget team, because of what you're describing doesn't make sense. We don't know how much money there is for one-time projects within the budget cycle. So that means you have to wait until the next budget cycle to to realize those funds and spend them on projects. So that means you're approving a budget in one fiscal year, and then you're waiting until you know what your contingencies truly are, and then you're approving a whole nother set of budget items, rather than do it all at once. So that's why I was saying that it's more honest to the public to say that, okay, we realize that a percentage of this exists every year, so we just incorporate that into our estimates, and then we spend forward on the projects that, like you're talking about, within the same budget year. So, and I know that sounds complex, but sometimes these things are. That's why it's good to understand these things and not just look at the process is complex, but then at the end of the day, what we're not doing is promising that we have X number of dollars and then ending up with more than that every single year, which was the practice in the past.
Okay,
No,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say,
Supervisor
because we spent so much time on this in the past, I would maybe recommend next time we have a budget conversation, we maybe call this out specifically so we can give direction, because of this, I now have more questions. I want some clarity. For me, at the end of the day, it just comes down to what are our budget policies, and what are we going to stick to? Because if we just stick with that, then we don't care about projection. Maybe we don't care. That won't really affect us. We're just gonna fund those board policies moving forward. But all that to say, I don't think right now is the right time to hash out that whole conversation. I think we should get some clarity on it from you guys, because I just remember it being a long conversation before, and I could see it opening up again right now. So I think I have questions with you guys, and maybe the finance, we'll meet with them, we'll bring it up during finance, and we'll get some clarity and bring it back before the board.
I think that's a good discussion to have at finance. I think fundamentally we're talking about the policy, and we always have with it the opportunity to make a decision to move money back in if we needed. So on that recommendation, Supervisor Grief, did you have more on that? Or I was gonna redirect it back to the 1 and 2, because I know staff is looking for, I think, some specific direction from us.
Well, forgive me since I wasn't here at the May 6th meeting. So the first thing, my personal opinion is that we need to take that $2.4 million and stuff it in an account and just see what the future holds, because it's all projections. We're not really sure. And more importantly, a lot of these decisions that we made earlier this year that got us to this 2.4 was on the backs of our employees that They had to cut, we told them to do 15%, and then as I listened to the meeting from May 6th, what it sounded like was, hey, we got this $2.4 million and we're gonna go on a spending spree. That's how it came off, right? We're gonna spend X dollars here, we're gonna spend X dollars there. When one of the things I thought we as a board decided is that we were gonna make these cuts so that we could ensure that we have money in the future to pay into our reserves, to pay into salaries, to make sure that we can cover these bonuses. So I just want to make sure that we're not saying, hey, look, we got this money and we're just going to go on a spending spree, because that's how it came out. That's how it came out on the, at least that's how I interpret it, and the feedback I got from a lot of employees, like, hey, wait a second, you asked us to do these big cuts, and then all of a sudden, you're going to spend X million dollars. I think it was even quoted $1 million for economic development, and I can't go for that. I think what we need to do is just take this money. And granted, the last meeting, the May 6th meeting, there was direction, I should say, made that, to look at doing Big Hill, to do a sealer, things like that. So if we're gonna make those decisions, I would say aim high, put all this money into an account, see what it comes when it comes time for the actual, and if we can then fund those positions, we can do that. But I just think we're sending a mixed message to our county, their employees, and the people that we're trying to do one thing, but yet it looks like we're doing something completely different.
And Supervisor Campbell requested to be able to speak. Supervisor Campbell?
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree completely. That was the feedback I received as well. That wasn't my intent. I think it was more to talk about the projects that would be important looking into the next fiscal year. But I absolutely received that feedback, that was the impression that our employees received, is that we asked them to cut 15%, and then we then turned around and used it on our pet projects. And that's never been something that I've enjoyed or that I've agreed with, having sat on other boards that have done that type of thing. And there's one thing that I think we really neglected to talk about, and we've talked about this in other settings, but one of the slides shows that we haven't set aside any kind of funding for contingencies. And I can't remember at what situation, but I know one of the things that I've brought up and we've talked about is looking at like the bottom third of wage earners within the county system and having some kind of way to provide pay increases there. Because these are the people that, they're either entry-level positions or, just basically look at all of the paid positions within the county organization, take the bottom third of those, and then focus on increasing pay there. Because we can't just look at this as a way to cut the budget without promoting the health of the organization. And so that's the thing that I think we've left out, is that, when we look at like the board recommendations, they're all, every single one of them has a good impact on the community, but we haven't really looked at something that will improve the health of Tuolumne County as an agency. So anyway, all that to say, I agree with your perspective. You took the words out of my mouth, and I agree with the point of view that we should, if we are going to be in a position where we can fund projects, we should wait until, going to Supervisor Holland's point, we should wait until, with that portion of it, that we do know that money is actually there, because what we're talking about is something that is a projection, but we're coming down into $300,000. That in the grand scheme of budgeting, that is not a very large amount of buffer for if we make a mistake, if TOT comes in less than we expected, if sales tax is less than we expected, which are all things that are entirely possible by the time we get to September. So I agree with Supervisor Griefer's perspective.
And I would like to say one of the things that you kind of touched on, I think, is that we don't have a strategy. I don't believe this county has a long plan strategy that says, we're going to start putting this money aside. You and I very briefly spoke about Big Hill, and I brought up Bonds Flat. I know that the roads department has a list of what their most, traveled roadways, and which are not, by the way, the same roads that are the highest complaints, right? I mean, Bonds Flat is a major pass-through for the LaGrange area, just as Big Hill. as a exit, as a escape route, right? So I think we need, as a county, to sit down and say, what is our 3, 5, 10-year plan, and how are we going to fund it? What are the most important roads to the community? I need to get Ward's Ferry Road open, and I know that the past board chose not to fund that, and I understand why. But that's a major escape route for the Groveland area in event of a wildfire. So, I think what we need to do is sit down and have a strategy meeting, however we want to craft that, whether it was with the CAO or whoever, and say, in 5 years, where do we want to be? And to Jaren's point is, in 5 years, where do we want to be in our reserves? And, as well as to Anaya's point of, we want to have investigators and law enforcement going after those predators that are out there preying on our vulnerable. How do we get to that point and have those benchmarks up on the wall so we can say, every year when we go through this dance, how much closer do we get to hitting those goals? And I don't think we have that right now, which is it's not a bad thing. It's just something we don't have. And I think we can do better as we enter this new era of accountability.
To tag in, I completely agree. I think this is one of the discussions we had in our workshop too, is there's a lot of change happening. There's a lot of financial pressures as well, some in our control, some outside of our control. And some of the ones in our control are things that are important, I think, to the county and to this board. And so how we're going to address that, I believe what we came from there was saying we do need to develop a 5-year financial plan, because cuts and reductions are one tool in the toolbox. It has been done in the past through just austerity, but it also kind of got us to the point with all of this deferred maintenance was not investing in the buildings, in the roads, when the time was right, or trying to find some of these efficiencies, at least at the scale that we needed. There's some other things which we can be more efficient as an organization if we invest. And then lastly, how do we grow our way out of it? We have to produce more revenue, which is an economic development strategy and a housing strategy and an infrastructure strategy, and all of that combined. So I'm in full support of that. That's why I was very interested in the Finance Committee. I hope the Finance Committee has had, I believe, meetings to be able to discuss this. I'd like to see that come back and have the opportunity to submit some of the ideas that we've been grappling with since the day that I started on the board too, financial challenges with it, and whether people believe that we made the right allocation to some of the cost drivers or not. Overall, it was bad when I started, and it's bad when you're starting now too. We're in a challenging situation where it's not just a matter of, I think, budgeting per year. It is a matter of planning our way out of it. And I completely agree with your sentiment onto it. So I look forward to that coming back. Supervisor Grieve, Holland, other moves?
So yes, so we have been having finance meetings, and so Ryan, we'll look into that. So you want to do 1/3 across the entire county organization? Okay, we'll get you some numbers and come back with.
No. Look at the bottom third of wage earners within the county, and then what would it look like? We had estimates for what, a 1%, 2%, 3%.
Yeah, I had Liz put that on there, so that was all departments wide. So when we're thinking about it, that's what.
And I realize it's more complicated than that, because you're going to create compaction issues. So I do realize that, but looking at just some way we can show that, the people in the bottom third of the county organization are not the people that I think we hear the most complaint about in the public about wages
you
and
just
that kind
want
of thing.
all departments, all wide. That way we get you the right information.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll put that on the list.
And to anybody maybe watching the compaction, could you really briefly explain what that is?
So there are, in the various labor organizations that represent our employees in the county, there are rules about if I'm an entry-level position and I make a certain amount, that manager for that position has to make a certain percentage above that entry-level position, so that you don't have a situation where you have a manager of a department making less than the employees that they oversee. So that's part of what makes these things so complicated, and why there can be a lot of inequality with the way and who gets pay increases within the county, because some positions there aren't those compaction issues, and some positions there are, and those can be much more difficult to get increases.
You take a $20 position, you want to give them a $5 raise, but then that raises everybody all the way up the food chain.
Yeah.
And
And then so you end up somebody making $40 an hour now gets $50 an hour.
Right.
And that's what tends to upset
which
members
is
of the community.
contractual stuff with the state and bargaining. And I did want to speak to, I mean, the first item asking for direction on is the board requests. I do agree, I think in general with the concept of it. There are two particular projects though on here that I view as investments in revenue saving. So one of them is the chip seal machine. If we're able to do that in-house, that will help us achieve our board goals for road maintenance, deferred maintenance. It fits our budget policies of one-time equipment purchases. But that's something that I think will allow us to do it cheaper and maybe share with other counties. And the second is economic development, and it's not broadly to any town. You know, I also represent Columbia. That wasn't as much of a discussion. Columbia has some economic issues, but, you know, every area does. There are two areas in the county that I think it's affecting our sales tax, and is affecting some of the property taxes, especially after we've seen some of these investments. And one is, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but Tuolumne has, you know, struggled. It's been difficult, and Jamestown's also been struggling. It's difficult. There's some very good signs of life. There's some good investments in the public infrastructure, but at least what I, you know, from Jamestown, the biggest thing is how do we get some more businesses open that are producing revenue? So those two, to me, are revenue producing, not pet projects. I also look at the road maintenance. We've done this in the past with some of the fund balance coming in to make sure we're doing the one road per year, and I know Big Hill has been one that's always pushed off. I really do want to see us have a district attorney. I understand the idea of hiring either position there at this point. The perception of that, I think there is a huge issue, but the biggest things to me are the revenue producers, chip seal and those two economic projects. And I believe it was $500,000, $250,000 for each. I know that there has been some soft commitment to potentially matching that with some of the local entities that may be supportive. And that could end up helping our numbers, which right now are flat. One of the big pressures on this budget and the amendments is that our sales tax is flat and our hospitality TOT is flat or reducing from where we thought it would be. Not just our costs went up, but our revenues did not grow as projected anywhere near that. So personally, I'm fine with keeping this amount. If we need to make adjustments then, we make adjustments then. But I like what we negotiated on that day. Supervisor Kirk?
Yeah, I hadn't had a chance to make comments. I wanted to just touch real quick, Steve, on what you're talking about, not having a vision for the 1, 3, 5. And our board hasn't had the opportunity to do the priority session. It's basically the same thing. We do our priorities. What does that look like for basically for the next 2 years? It's really hard in government to look out 5 or 10 years, but we definitely can add that, I think, to the priority thing, like the overarching umbrella. And then to make sure it happens, that's why we tried implementing ClearPoint a couple years ago, and staff really didn't really get followed up with. So like there's tools that we've already created that we just need to stay on top of, and I think that'll help guide us and help stay on top of things. As far as, you know, there's comments about maybe saving some money and it going to salaries. I'm sorry, but I think the way I heard it, I completely disagree. Other than I know I'm calling out 2 positions that are going to be ongoing, but in general, that's kind of the problem is we can't, that's why I've been asking for so long to have our trends and projections before we have budget meetings, because we can't even negotiate a 1 or 2% COLA if we don't understand that trend or projection moving into the future, because it will absolutely eat up really this money should be for one-time things. It really should be to buy a chip seal. It should be to buy a liner for Public Works so they can do in-house line striping instead of $400,000 a year contract. The idea of this was to take one-time monies and put it towards one-time things, PERS, liabilities, and it kind of is, just from my experience, it kind of is that last chance as supervisors for us to say, there's a little bit of leftover money, let's put 80% of it towards these bigger items, but then, yeah, we do need to get some projects done. We do need to get some wins in our community, otherwise it's just always gonna be eaten up by staff COLA raises. If we don't pay attention to that, it will always be eaten up by raises. So the way to affect raises is to get a better economy, to get TOT up, to get all these other things that will fund that in perpetuity instead of just this little chunk of money here. Okay, let's give a 1%, because that 1%'s forever. So that's just my personal opinion. When it comes to this list, I absolutely agree with the perception that it kind of turned into a wish list. I do agree with Supervisor Brandon on the chip seal machine. That is not a wish list for a specific district. That will kick butt in every single district Our community's demanding it. Our PCI index is going up. That's going to do more work for our roads than almost anything because of the public contract code, how it's going to be able to utilize and get under that public contract code. I would even throw in the line striper machine because of understanding the numbers. The reason why I put the two ongoing, absolutely, the deputy attorney, the sheriff investigator, those are a violation of my own policy, which is you don't put one-time money towards ongoing expenses. But I know the work that Supervisor Holland and I are doing in finance. We're going through every single line item. We're finding monies. And I'm just to a point in my political career where I've been wanting to affect change in law enforcement for so long because it's our #1 priority. Our board has been kicking butt. We've gotten them raises. We got deputies staying, not leaving. And we're all excited, but that's just baseline services. We get people come up and they scream and they cry about 2 potential hate crimes, and then I present 480-something cases of sex crimes against children, and all of a sudden people are disgusted by those numbers. I'm like, well, just give me a DA and give me give me a DA and give me an investigator, and we can smash those numbers. We can protect the elderly. It's like we've gotten to baseline. For me personally, if I can get those two to protect our vulnerable populations, then I'll feel way better about paving more roads. I'll feel way better about economic development. I will be able to sleep at night. So as long as I'm a supervisor, until I get those two items, those will be the last two big items probably in my political career. I'll ask for little things along the way, but I want law enforcement. I want our vulnerable populations to be safe. This affects child protective services. This affects public health. This affects so many things. If you get 480 kids a year not being sexually abused and you go after those perpetrators, you put them in, you get rid of them, it's going to have a huge system, but a huge effect on all of our departments. But you're not going to see it overnight. It's part of a healthy society. So that's my personal opinion from my 18 years in law enforcement and working in probation. If I can get those two items, whether it's today or September, but I know the DA, I know the sheriffs are already working. They're anticipating this based on the last conversation. But I just want you guys to know my heart. I'm not going to stop until I get those two things, because that's really the end of my bucket list. Is I'll feel good about going to bed at night protecting our vulnerable population. After that, business as usual, budget. But I can't deny that we're here and that we're talking about it and we're so close to making it happen. So,
if I may, just to kind of clarify on that, because what I was hearing was two comments about effectively not doing these and putting it either into contingencies, reserves, something like that. I expressed wanting to more or less keep this list there. You had a couple. Would you prefer to keep some of these? Are you looking to eliminate some of the other ones just so that we're giving kind of clear direction? Do you want to agree with we'll push it to September?
I'd say absolutely chip seal. We should just say unequivocally, Blossom, go buy the chip seal machine after today. Go sign it. The deputy and the investigator, I personally would do that, or the attorney and the investigator, I would do that today. If you guys feel more comfortable waiting until September, so be it. But those for me are #1 priorities. Everything else on the list, yeah, we can absolutely wait till September. I'd still like a little bit more information on the development, on the economic development stuff. I don't know what it entails, if it's just giving money to businesses or if there's like an umbrella, how it's going to be administered. I just need more information if we're going to give out $500,000. So I'm still waiting until that vote to understand what the plan is for that. And then, yeah.
Supervisor Griefer?
Oh, thank you. So now, again, reviewing the meeting from May 6th, I believe the board, and not to put you on the spot, but I thought they were asked you to come back with a plan or what that, there was some vagueness of what you were asking for. Do you have clarity on what you're asking here?
Yeah. Well, it's vague because we're talking about it in a budget sense. So we're creating a line item that was for Tuolumne and Jamestown split to basically do economic development. I spoke with staff about what the process for that would be because there wasn't a written thing. It was purely basically having the money aside that then the program can be drafted. What was mentioned is it would either be, I think, a sole source or an RFP, depending on the criteria that we would then set. But that doesn't really happen until we have the money set aside to do it. At that point, we would determine whatever we would like to see. And I think to Supervisor Kirk's point, it would be something about keeping businesses open and getting new businesses started. I don't think it would just be
So it was more of a placeholder?
In terms of a budget,
right
it's a
now.
fund.
Yeah, okay,
Right.
all right.
So it would be premature to basically either have myself just write out what I think that should be, when we don't know that the county may even administer it, may be somebody else. But we can't do that until we have that approved basically into a line item that we can then do some type of RFP. And staff, correct me if I'm wrong on that, if that's kind of the order. Is that correct? I won't be mad if I got it wrong.
No, I don't think the order necessarily, I mean, really, it's up to your board. If the full board needs clarity about what that placeholder might entail, then that, that would that would be the first step. Ultimately, yes, we would need to issue some sort of RFP to determine who would be working with if the decision is not to have county staff administer that kind of program.
And maybe in a simple answer, if I was in a sandbox and maybe I didn't eloquently explain it the first time, was that this would seek some matching funds to do business recruitment in particular, because these are two areas that have lots of vacant business properties. And that would spur activity because it's getting to where there are so many vacancies, it's now hard for businesses to start. And so in that way, it wouldn't just be necessarily direct subsidies or a giant marketing thing. I think it's trying to get businesses open.
No, and I hear you. I just thought maybe there was I remember reviewing the video, they asked you about it, and I didn't know if there was data, and I just didn't have it. So I appreciate that, thanks. Because I also know that we talked about a block grant of $100,000, for economic development as well. And so, I'm of the mindset that, part of the thing that I hear the most is the permit fees and the rates that we are charging our small businesses to do business. And, it just seems to me, maybe we need to take a step back, look at maybe reducing some of those fees to generate, people to go and start their businesses or get those things. So there's some options there, but I still, my personal position is that we stuff it into an account and we see until the dust settles, because I'm concerned about the TOT tax, especially up in Groveland. We're already seeing a drop because of the tourism into Yosemite is having an impact. So, I'm concerned that we're going to say, yes, we're going to fund these things. And then all of a sudden now we're going to be back to step zero.
And Supervisor Holland, not to put you on the spot, but we need you to weigh in on where you're at with this. So we have two for, again, if I'm misspeaking, put it in an account, wait till later, but don't do allocations now. I'm for keeping this pretty much as is. You mentioned a couple specific ones, I think the chip seal and the law enforcement investments. So, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify something, and I saw the sheriff in the background. I'm going to behoove myself if I don't ask him to come up and clarify. The investigator, he's working on, because we had talked after the last meeting, he's working on actually getting that covered financially. So if you could just give a quick update, because that might not be a cost. Or just clarify.
I think the last, good afternoon, Dave Vasquez, Sheriff of Tuolumne County. Last time we talked about this, when it came up in open session, I had said that I've been working with county administration, obviously, to be strategic with budget and capitalize on special department revenue, other things associated with reorganizations that could potentially fund this FTE without impacting the general fund. I think that my position is still the same today. But again, being mindful of that scope of authority that you hold is within your realm to approve or not approve those positions. But I did say that at the last meeting, we talked about it, and position has not changed. So if that's the board's direction, I'll work with county administration to capitalize on any other strategies moving forward.
Thank you. And Supervisor Kirk, maybe on that point too, because I didn't really address that. At least how I view this over the last 4 years, because we hadn't done. Oh. Go ahead. Oh, it'll be very quick. Come on. Reasonably quick. We had our law enforcement officers and deputies in particular so far out of class, as we all know, it's just for the public's benefit. We had aggressively pretty bargained some increases there that brought them up to, I think, a competitive wage, and with Sheriff Pooley and Sheriff Vasquez, we've seen that end up with a fully staffed office, including the narcotics team. So we're getting more complicated cases that are coming forward. And so I'm seeing that capacity. I don't know if it's doubled or not, but from where it was with vacancies, it's way higher. The biggest thing, and it's been on my priority list too since the first year, it's been, okay, so now we're doubling the folks that are patrolling, doing some of this investigation and bringing back these cases. But the DA's office hasn't really had that support to work on particularly the felony ones, the narcotics ones. So I agree with you on that. I don't know if we need to do the sheriff deputy investigator right now. That's one I'd be willing to pause because we've had that increase in capacity. I think the weak spot right now has been the DA's office not having expansion.
And I asked the same questions, and it was really, if you're gonna have the DAs focus on these vulnerable populations, which there's a full caseload in and of itself to affect that. It's same thing with the investigator. You have to have somebody on the front end doing those initial investigations, doing all the legwork, making a good case, making a strong case, and then the DA can pick it up. So it's just kind of the two and two work together. I mean, we could have them come up and have a conversation about, but I already did, and they're pretty dependent on each other if we're gonna, yeah, I mean, if you know anything about sex crimes, I'm not expecting people to know, but very extremely hard to investigate, to prosecute because of the victims involved, because of especially when you're dealing with minors, it's a very lengthy, very hard process. There's a lot of burnout with the staff involved with it because you really see the most evil people in what they do. So it's a very strict, tight unit. If you look at larger jurisdictions, like I used to work Merced probation, we even had we had probation, we had mental health, we had social services, we had an attorney, we had somebody from the PD, somebody from the sheriff. We had a unit that would go, and I think the unit was several large that would go after these specific cases. Here, we're asking for 2 people. So with my experience, I think it's very minimal, but it's still gonna be very impactful.
Supervisor Griefer?
Thank you. So I agree with Supervisor Kirk. I mean, I've been on those investigations, so I agree wholeheartedly that if we're gonna do it, it's a team effort. But I want to remind the board that this is all connected, meaning that if people don't feel safe coming to our county, they're not gonna come to the county. If the roads are crap, they're not gonna come to our county, right? If we don't have good businesses, they're not gonna come to our county. So I think instead of just limiting it to this, and to be fair, I didn't have a shot at this when you guys were talking about this. So when you guys came up with the Christmas list, I wasn't present. So where I'm going with this is I'm all for, if you want to put money into economic development. Well, for me, $100,000 in the Pine Mountain Lake Airport to give them a chip seal, or to give them the seal the cracks so we can have more people fly in like they do for Columbia and go and visit our, parks and stuff. That's part of that economic development in my mind. And my concern is that we don't have a very focused plan on how we want to bring people to our communities to shop here and visit while they feel safe. I think we just need to put this money into an account, hold off until we know what the final number is, and then say collectively, hey, we want to work together to get to the end result of everyone being successful.
We probably need a workshop meeting on that. Supervisor Holland, though, since we're a bit of a hung jury right now.
Well, there's nothing on that list I stuck on there, so I know we talked about this last time. I do agree at the point about the chip seal machine saving us money versus we're gonna spend the money fixing the road anyways, because that is something we all sit and talk about. Every person that lives in this county talks about the roads because we drive on them and we get to feel them every day in the shocks. So I think that is a good thing. I thought a lot about the district attorney and the sheriff investigator, and Anaya shared a bunch of the information with the pure number of sex crimes. So I was sharing that with my wife. So then I got an earful from my wife, being a wife, and then I have 2 daughters, and I got another earful from them, and look at it from a different point of view. Not we're all guys sitting up here, so most of the sex crimes are being committed against women. Not all of them, but a good chunk of them, and children and stuff like that. So I think it is really important. I think that we hear all the time people talk about safety in our community and how important it is to feel safe. Now, this doesn't mean we're going to make crime go away, clearly. I mean, bad guys still do bad things. But this means that maybe the citizens realize that there's a penalty and they will be arrested and they will hopefully go to jail, is the goal of all that. So, but I do worry about the budget as well, Me and Liz have had hours, more than I'm sure Liz wants to talk to me about the budget. So, because I think that, if we let the budget go to crap, then it's going to be real bad all the way around. So I am torn between it. Those are probably the 3 things I would say if we need to do something today. The chip seal machine, I think, takes 6 months to a year to even arrive. So 6, thank you, Blossom. So, I mean, that means, and we can't chip seal in the winter, that means it wouldn't even go in effect until April or May next year before we actually start to see it happening. So I don't know. Does that give zero clarity, hopefully, on my position?
Well, we have some consensus on some of the items. It sounds
Could I
like you.
speak to a couple of those things? So on the chip seal machine, I've heard a lot of support for that, and I understand that. Just remember, we're talking about chip sealing, not paving. So
No, I
we
understand.
purchased a pave machine and a road zipper. What we need, see, I would say that the equipment is not as pressing an issue as it is funding road projects themselves. So actually putting aside money to operate these machines and pay for the material and have road projects take place takes precedence right now over the equipment to do it, because we already have some of the equipment to do these projects. The other thing I would say about a chip sealing machine is that's something that qualifies under LTF funding through transportation. So there are other ways to fund equipment that are not just necessarily general fund or directed. It's more difficult to do that with actual projects. So when we pay for paving projects, generally that comes directly out of the general fund or road fund or these things. And so there are fewer ways to do that. That's the only thing I would say about the chip seal machine. It's to me, if this was a situation where we didn't have a paving machine, I would say 100%. We need a paving machine. We did that last year. We purchased it. We have it. I'm more interested in getting that paving machine and the road zipper to work on projects than I am on a chip seal machine, which is more for roads that are already that are in bad shape, but not as bad where they need to be completely resurfaced like the paving machine does.
And Supervisor, can you speak to the public resource code part of that? Because I think we have the equipment, but that's one of the key things is that I think it's 70,000 limit road zipper and paver.
I'm not sure. But the main thing is that we just don't have the money for these different projects. That's why I brought up Big Hill, because this is something that has been on the docket for a long time, and it keeps getting pushed off and pushed off. You know, and I would also, you know, talking about Bonds Flat, those two roads by themselves, and Ward's Ferry, you know, but Bonds Flat and Big Hill Road are like the majority of our pothole requests, and they just continue to get worse. And so if we don't fund those projects, it's difficult to do them with some of we couldn't do either of those projects with a chip seal machine, put it that way.
No, I understand. And like I promised you, I drove Big Hill Road.
Yeah.
I was expecting actually much worse conditions from the description of all the people that showed up. And then I drove it at the full speed limit and went, I think it was the same way 20 years ago when I drove this thing. I used to drive with a motorcycle all the time. So I'm not saying it's wonderful, but most of our roads are not wonderful.
You drove the whole length of it?
Yeah, all the way up it. I mean, the other side is better. The Columbia side's a little bit better than
The Columbia side's much better.
Yeah, so, but I mean, I did drive it today, like I promised you. Like I actually went out early this morning and drove it. But again, I look at it as a Blossom's gonna talk about a chip seal machine, but that's something that's gonna benefit the entire county versus, and I don't know, is Big Hill Road the worst road in our county to focus on?
Can I?
I don't know.
Because I think Blossom's gonna interject. I wanted to add one caveat, and this is maybe where we were at in the previous meeting too, that I know the economic development, getting businesses started fund is the most important one to me. We had the chip seals most important, we had Big Hill's most important, we had law enforcement, so we kind of ended up in this. But
Right, so hold on. So this is why I think where Supervisor Griefer, where he started from and where I agreed is that if we look at this as an aspirational document, that if we do in fact have this money in September, this is where it will go. But I think what the staff recommendation is that we wait until September to make sure that we can actually pay for these things that we're asking for. I think if we agree that this is a place to start from and that these things should be funded, I'm all on board with that. The question is doing it right now.
Blossom.
Well, to add to that is that I agree with, sorry, Blossom.
Yeah.
So everything you said, I agree with the exception of designating Big Hill Road is that I think we need to say we're going to put X money into a project and then we fight it out. Does that make sense? Because I'm gonna fight for Bonds Flat just as hard as you're gonna fight for Big Hill.
Well, one of the things with roads is we don't, I mean, we talked about it with Ward's Ferry, but of course, it's partly based on traffic and other things, right?
Well, Wards Ferry is the outlier here, only because it's so damaged and it's such a hostile place to have to do any work down because it is in the canyon. But, so that, I wouldn't worry about Wards Ferry right now. I'll fight that battle later. But where I agree with my colleague regarding, if we're going to fund road paving projects, then I would ask the roads department to tell us what their top problem child is, and then we advocate for what we feel is the best one to serve the community. I have no problems if you were to say, hey, we're gonna do Big Hill in 2026, and we're gonna do Bonds Flat in 2027, right? And we start budgeting accordingly, I'm all for that. So I agree with everything you said, just obviously I'm gonna fight for
Well, that would
Bonds
be,
Flat.
I believe, putting it into the roads fund, because we do have, I don't know, it was like 10 different projects from the very early initiation to kind of shovel ready, right? Let's bring you back up. We need expert assistance.
Ready this time?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let me just speak to the public contract code part that you had, the question. Individual projects, yes, we have a $75,000 maximum. However, as your road commissioner, I have the authority to approve paving projects collectively up to about the $600,000 to $700,000 range each fiscal year. The amount varies based on what we spend the previous year. To Supervisor Griefer's point, we will be bringing back our annual road report to this board, which will make recommendations for paving, data-driven recommendations. That's a little later coming to you this year because we've taken on a new division and we have a lot of work. And to both your points, pardon me, Big Hill and Bonds Flat are our two single highest complaint roads.
Hey, Blossom. So I always hear it's $1 million a mile to pave. So does that mean we're only paving a half a mile of Big Flat Road for $450, or are we just filling Big Hill, or are we just filling potholes, or?
That $450,000 is the materials for our own crews to pave approximately 3 miles.
So our cost per mile is cheaper when we do it. Is it just an overlay we're doing, or are we doing a full tear out replacement?
That will probably include, if not full grinding, at least localized grinding. So that is just the materials. That doesn't include the labor and equipment cost. That will be coming out of our regular road fund maintenance budget.
Okay, so that portion is budgeted. It's just the material. Okay, and that would do how far you said? 3 miles.
Approximately 3 miles.
Okay, so it's a grind and mostly.
An overlay.
An overlay, okay. Okay. Thanks.
Supervisor Griefer.
No, I just think we're at that point where we've said what we're gonna say, and maybe it's just time to put a pin in it and come back. So my final comment is, like I said, I support where Supervisor Campbell's coming from. I don't think we designate a specific project. We say, hey, we're gonna put some money aside for a project, and then we discuss it publicly at a later date.
So I'm hearing that I would like to move forward with what we have. I'm hearing 2 that would like to move forward on some of these items, and I'm hearing 2 that would like to basically put this aside until either September or in a potential fund when we get more data. So it sounds like 3 would like to take some action today on some of these, unless somebody would like to defer it besides Supervisor Campbell and Supervisor Griefer being the 2. Otherwise, do we want to open up a discussion on which ones, so?
So I would be fine just making a motion. I think we should just, based on the votes, we should just make some motions and see where things land and move this forward. Because we could, I think we've gone back and forth quite a bit.
Well, I would be happy to make a motion to move forward with this as we had at our last meeting to see if there is a second on that. So this would be moving forward with all 5 of these board requests as stated.
Today, effective today? And then I'll make a counter motion that I would move forward with the chip seal, the deputy, and the attorney.
So I'll second that if it includes Big Hill Road paving. Otherwise, I'll make an alternative motion.
Sure.
So is that yes or?
Yeah, kind of jumped the gun.
Are you guys?
There wasn't really time to see whether there was a second to mine.
I'll go back to my original statement from several weeks ago, which was I will protect vulnerable kids first and then pave a road. So yeah, I would include that, Ryan. I would include your Big Hill.
Okay.
I'll do whatever I gotta do.
So
Sorry.
So
to
Big Hill, Chip
clarify,
Seal, Deputy Sheriff.
Yep.
it's 4 out of 5 of these, but it's not the economic development project planning in Tuolumne or Jamestown.
I would post those till September. The remaining ones until September. I'm not saying get rid of them at all. I'm just saying postpone decision on those till September.
Okay, so we have a first by Supervisor Kirk, a second by
I'll
Supervisor
second.
Campbell. I believe it is for the Big Hill Road, the chip seal, the Deputy District Attorney, and the Sheriff Deputy Investigator. If there's any discussion, I know I'm not going to be supporting this. It doesn't have the one priority, the biggest priority on here for me. So do we have any discussion?
So you want the deputy, and Big Hill?
And chip seal, right?
And
It's
the chip seal?
everything but economic development
Okay,
projects.
Sorry,
So-
I can't.
That's fine. Let's just vote.
So-
'cause-
Well, no, I hear you. I'm just
Yeah.
saying the reason I'm against this is because the people of
know.
Groveland did not have an opportunity to come before and.
Well, do you want to include $100,000 for Groveland ceiling?
Well,
I'll
I-
include $100,000 for Groveland ceiling.
All I'm
I want to
saying-
protect my kids.
What that implies that I don't. And
Why-
No, I know, and that, I don't want to do that
Right,
too.
well, I
know.
understand
Right.
that. So here's, well, go ahead, call the vote.
Let's, I'm taking your advice on that. We're going to call the vote just for clarity on this, since we may have a couple rounds, it says. If this doesn't pass, we're just going to bring it back for a motion to consider a different alternative, okay?
Sure.
So all those in favor of that, which is all 4 of these minus the third line, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Opposed? Abstaining? Oh. All right, so that motion doesn't pass, though I technically didn't have a second, there wasn't much time. Mine is to move forward with all 5 allocated in the next budget as is. Was there a second for that?
Second.
Okay, so there's a second. To clarify, this is all 5 of these as listed basically in this slide. So any questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Abstain. I still need a plan on economic development.
All right. Well,
So I'll move to approve the staff recommended action.
all right, so we have a first, which is to pause these till September. We have a first by Supervisor Campbell recommending pausing that. We have a second by Supervisor Griefer. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Opposed?
Oppose.
All abstaining?
Hold on.
We gotta get you a longer mic.
I guess
I'm gonna count that as an abstention because it's gotta be done at the same time. We can do another.
Let him speak.
Yeah,
He
that's
needs
fine.
to vote.
I know, but it needs to be at the
He
appropriate time.
needs to vote. You're talking over.
I'll oppose.
Okay.
It doesn't matter, I mean, the
Yeah.
votes are done, but.
And I'm not trying to be specific on the outcome of that, only just, we all have to vote at the same time, right? Okay, so right now, we don't have a majority to
Can I make
delay
another
this.
motion? How many
Yeah.
motions can we make? I'd make a motion.
No, just, we don't have, wait. We don't have a majority to delay it. We didn't have a majority to accept the full amount, and we didn't have a majority for the first motion. Supervisor Kirk?
Okay. I'm just gonna try this. Chip Seal Deputy, Sheriff's Investigator, and your airport $100,000. Whatever, you're gonna squirt something on it to make it so people can land. Whatever. Seal it. There you go.
Well,
That would be my motion.
Sharon, we have a-
if- Trying to get a third vote.
the last vote was Supervisor Campbell's motion to basically not make a decision on these today and to have this decision come back in September. Three noes, 2 yeses. Yeah. And so Supervisor Kirk has a motion on the table, which is adding 100,000 for Pine Mountain Lake Airport. Also, the chip seal machine and the attorney investigator.
Yeah, that'll be my last one.
To highlight one thing, Pine Mountain Lake and Columbia, they are both enterprise funds, which traditionally means they are self-sustaining in concept.
But my understanding is if they do that, they can remain open for 5 more years, and there's a $3.5 million issue with Pine Grove, so they're gonna need all the time they can get to figure that out. So I'm okay with.
We have a first for that. Do we have a second? All right, hearing no second.
Hold on, I'm still thinking. I mean, there's not a timer, right? I mean, Sorry, and
All right. So we don't have that.
We'll just do it in September. We'll have the conversation in September.
and that's all I'm asking for, is buy a little time. Let's stuff it in a hole and.
Well, let me make a motion then. Let's see how we're feeling. There are two of these that to me save money or potentially produce revenue the most. And that is the chip seal machine, which helps the whole county, and that is economic development projects in two areas with a lot of vacant businesses, not ones that are currently producing revenue. So my motion would be, we move forward with the chip seal machine and the economic development projects. And we look for the other three at a later time. I would be open to also what you said, 450,000 to the road fund, and we leave that based on a future date. That's fine with me too. But mine would be moving forward items 2 and 3 on this. Is there a second? All right.
And
Let's get brainstorming, guys.
Hey, I'm sorry, I said it was my last one, but did we just have we done a motion just for the chip seal? Because I'll put a motion just for the chip seal. We know we're gonna fund that. Let's just at least do that. So I'll put a motion to at least just do the chip seal today so she can call and order it.
Second.
Okay. And so this is just for the chip seal machine, nothing else. If that does pass, I assume then we are kind of voting no on the rest of these, is my understanding?
Until September, bring it back in
Right.
September. Yeah.
Okay, so we have the chip seal machine with a first by Supervisor Kirk. We have a second by Supervisor Griefer. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Abstaining? Say aye. Yeah,
Yes.
I abstain. I like the idea, but it's not my top priority on here.
I hear you. But we got
So-
3, so we're going.
Is there 3?
Yeah.
Gotta speak up. I can't hear you when you're sitting back. Not to be on you. Okay, staff, I think, do you have direction on that particular item? So we'll be moving forward with the chip seal machine. Sounded like all 4 of these items will be brought back in September, correct? All right. What was the we had other items on the, we're gonna skip number 2. It's gonna take 3 more hours. Number 3, let's see, any modification addition to the budget. So then we will be adopting, besides that vote, to give kind of direction moving forward. What else do you need?
I think I have all the clarity I need. Everything else that's left over as far as that 2.4
Yeah.
will be added to contingencies, except for the chip seal machine.
We don't need to do the 4/5 budget amendment, end of year budget adjustments that we had. I
We're
thought-
gonna do that on June 17th.
Okay.
For anything that may be necessary.
Okay, wonderful. All right, if there's nothing further from the board, all right, we'll close this item. Thank you for presenting and for everybody for hanging in with us as we hash all of this out. We have remaining, it is 12:40. Yeah, we have item 7 that I think we can do very quickly. Then we have 2 closed session items after that, which I think we can work through lunch if everybody's fine with that. Okay?
Knock it out now.
We could, I would just say, let's do 7 and then we'll do a break. How's that?
Potty break?
That's right. No, we do need, can we do 5 minutes? Is that 5 minutes real quick? Yeah, 5 minutes because there's a consultation that's needed real quick. So we'll be back at 12:46. All right, we are going to call the board meeting back to order at 12:47. We do have a quorum present with Supervisor Kirk, myself, and Supervisor Holland. So staff can read item 7.
Item number 7, approving an amendment to the governance manual related to the conflict of interest policy.
Okay. Figured Supervisor Kirk, you want to
Yeah.
lead it off, or
Yeah, no,
Roger and Sarah?
I wanted to press time out, and I had a handful of questions I need clarity on from county council. I think Steve also had questions. I checked with Steve earlier. I asked if he was good. He said he was good. So I was fine moving forward. My main concern was, I get this is an overarching policy, so great, but when it comes down to individual department heads, I just want to make sure that they're included in the process and that they obviously have their say, and I trust that process will be done properly. If not, I'm sure I will hear from it. So I feel fine on moving on item number 7 when we need to make a motion.
All right. You mentioned you had questions, or they've
No,
been answered?
they've been answered.
Okay.
And I had to do some research on FPPC, so I was able to do that.
All right. Do we have any other questions or comments based on item 7? Supervisor Campbell?
Yeah, I did. So the comment about, and you and I haven't had an opportunity to talk in the break, so this is, the comments about if I have a project, I'm looking for approval from the county, the CAO determines that that's a conflict, or what would be the process there?
No, a couple of things just for everyone's clarity here is this protocol, adopting it is the first step in the process, because then we need to work with each individual department when there is a potential conflict, right? And work through the processes. And Ms. Yaley raised good concerns, and so we would still need to work through those. So this is not excluding further work at all, which I also informed her of when she raised those with me earlier. So we're still gonna work through that process. The other thing is, we would follow the law in terms of conflict of interest. There's the Political Reform Act, there's Government Code 1090, like that guides when someone has a conflict of interest. So I would think that it's not that the CAO is determining there's a conflict. It is that we understand from a legal perspective there's a conflict, and now we're gonna work through it. So that's how I look at it. The policy just says that the CAO, again, as the person who oversees operations of all of the non-elected departments, would be sort of helping guide and facilitating that process of working through it. That was the intent behind having the CAO sort of take lead in working through that process with the department, with HR, with county council. So that was the intent behind it.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
so the follow-up on that is, if through that process it's determined that a conflict exists, so the county will go to an outside consulting agency or whatever department that I'm looking for approval from the county, that'll be done by a private contractor, or?
No, what we cited to in the policy is the government code that specifically allows the board to ask another local agency another local agency, so it could, any type of other local agency that to perform the county service or the function. That is listed in the government code. That was specifically listed because there was questions about the board's ability to delegate powers to other entities. That code section allows your board to delegate those powers.
Well, okay, but what I'm getting at is, if we're delegating those powers to another agency, what's the oversight to determine whether I don't have a conflict with that outside?
I think that's something that staff would need to work through. And again, this is a general policy, and I get the questions.
It's
They're
just we're
important.
pushing, because you're having to look into whether or not there's a conflict within the internal of the county. And then you'll have to do the same work to determine whether there's a conflict with each agency that you're proposing to take on the issue.
Possibly.
Okay. And then if I'm getting, campaign contributions or gifts or, a new Ferrari, which, hasn't showed up yet. But if I'm getting things like that from an agency that, say, has offices in Tuolumne County, but is not based in Tuolumne County,
Well, the type of public
will that
agency.
show up
the public-
on 700 forms?
The type of public agency that the county would be asking to perform services is not legally allowed to give those type of contributions. That would be prohibited gift of
Okay.
funds in violation of campaign finance
Or,
laws.
and I shouldn't have phrased it that way, not campaign gifts, but if I do, let's say I work with that agency on another project in another county or another state, how would you know that? And
Well, I mean, one part of the thing is conflicts of interest. First of all, conflicts of interest happen because we are all human beings and we are connected in some way. We own properties, we own businesses. The other thing is that conflicts of interest are generally personal, although there can be the perception, which is what we're trying to address here, are perception issues. And it is up to the individual that has the conflict to be alerting us. Of course, we can look at things like Form 700. We can look at things like, does the individual sit on any type of other public agency within that jurisdiction? Like, those are all the things that we can look at. So, I mean, part of it is having conversations and sort of understanding that's why it's a fact specific. Every single conflict of interest analysis is fact specific. You can't just take a broad brush and paint it with the same thing. You have to look at each one individually.
Okay.
So I just want to go back to, this is the first step in a process.
what I'm describing to you is that while I understand the purpose of this, it seems to alleviate the county of the responsibility for a conflict of a board member or a staff member, I don't see how it's going to solve the issue of the conflict itself. So we're taking this conflict issue out of the county, putting it on someone else. There could still be a conflict there, but the county has no authority at that point to do anything about it. So we're taking this existing issue and putting it outside the county and saying that it's all good, but it's not all good.
I think in those circumstances, we would be working with the official and the agency to determine if there are conflicts within the agency, and if that's accurate, they would not be doing the work for the county.
And I don't mean to keep going back and forth on this, but why can that not be done within the county agency? I mean, if we're working with departments.
It's possible it can be.
Hold on, let me
Okay.
finish. So if we're working with these departments to determine where there's a conflict, we're just saying carte blanche that if there's any of these kind of conflicts within county departments, we're gonna put it out to another agency. Then we're gonna look into whether or not those conflicts are justified, or if they can do the work anyway.
That's
even
not
though
what the
there are
policy says. The way it's written, it says if it's necessary, because sometimes ethical walls can be built where you don't need to send it outside, but sometimes it really needs to go outside. And part of it, again, back is to the perception issue about, is there bias, is there favoritism, are there other issues going on that just create a situation where it would be in the best interest of the organization to have another neutral third-party entity look at the matter. So it's not necessarily going to be in every single circumstance. And like I keep saying, this is the first step in a process to explore individual conflicts that need to be addressed more specifically and work through some of those specific items. So this is not going to address everything. It's the first step to allow it to be addressed.
What's the second step?
The next step is when we have the specific conflict that we need to address, then myself, the CAO, HR will work with the department, will work with the individual that has the conflict to figure out sort of like all the facts that we need to know, and then make a determination about what needs to happen in that circumstance.
Okay, so if you determine that it does need to go outside the county, who pays for that?
That, I think, is something I'm gonna look to Roger to speak to.
Well, it depends on where we send it to. As an example, I've spoken to a lot of counties and a couple of cities in the last couple of months regarding this, and some counties would charge as if they would charge for any kind of service. Other counties want to actually develop an MOU and have kind of a flat rate for any kind of service we would send to them. But it would depend on what the issue is, what kind of work we're sending to the county. Some counties have been really flexible, and they said they wouldn't charge anything more than what they would charge their regular process within the organization. So we have things like, if we had to send some out for county council now, they have their outside attorneys, but even in that case, they have rates that they charge for their attorneys, and they would charge the same rates to us. And some of that would probably be county money that would be paid, but in some examples, if it's an outside project that has a conflict, then whoever's project that is would cover the cost of that like they would if they were turning in a project in the county today. So there's a lot of different options, and it will be on case by case on how it will be covered.
Well, then there's going to be a cost there over and above, because we're no longer providing that service within the county. It's going to be an additional cost. Have we figured out?
In some cases, there might be additional costs, yes.
Have we
Not in
figured
every
out what
case.
that's going to be, and are we going to need to budget for that? And
Well, we won't know until we have.
until it comes up?
Until we have conflicts.
So we're
that we
going
have
to
resolve.
adopt the policy that could have a financial impact and not know what that financial impact is.
Well, if we have a conflict where we have to go out for support in law enforcement, we'd be able to get support without having a cost at all. If we have something where we have to get county counsel to get an outside attorney, then there's going to be a cost associated with it. I think the agreements that the sheriff has with other departments to help cover his costs, I just signed one for autopsies, and that's built into, they have these agreements where they support each other. And there's cases like that where there is not going to be a cost, and there's cases where there's going to be a cost. And until we have the case and we review it, then we won't know how much it's going to cost. I could predict, let's put $100,000 in. If we don't spend it, we don't spend it. But There's no way of knowing without actually having the case, doing the evaluation, deciding on where we're gonna send it, and having those agreements in place.
Okay, thank you.
All right, do we have any more questions or discussion? All right, if not, I'll be looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to move on item 7.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a first by Supervisor Kirk. Oh, and we need public comment on it. Didn't we? Did we already? Okay. Whew, there we go. First by Supervisor Kirk, a second by Supervisor Holland. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Supervisor Campbell?
Aye.
Aye, okay. All right, passes unanimously. So with that, we will get ready to go into closed session. This will be for items 8 and 9. I did want to state, so speaking with the council, for one of these, there is an issue there, so I will be recusing myself, I believe, from item 9, correct? On that discussion. If the clerk can read items 8 and 9.
Item number 8.
We're pulling item number 8. There's no labor negotiations needed today.
Okay, and do I need to leave to have the item read and public comment on it, or?
And then,
Okay.
I don't know if your board is gonna do reports or come back out after the closed session.
Do we want to do reports? I'm fine. We can do, let's do reports right now, and then we'll read item 9 and go into closed session. Supervisor Holland?
So I have attended a couple of meetings, and I think something we need to look into is the Tri-Dam situation going down at South Lake Tulloch down there. I have concerns that maybe we can talk about in a meeting, get something agendized, that the Tri-Dam group is basically running that place like its own private lake, and that the community does not have access to it, they're not gonna provide access to it, and that's a public waterway. That dam is supposed, or the lake is supposed to be there for motorized use, it's in their things, it's costing the county money because our vendor down there cannot fully open, which I don't understand. If we control the ramps, how would they ever stop the citizens from using that lake? I'm kind of confused. It seems like they want to use the sheriff's department as their personal security guards down there. It just seems like something needs to change, and maybe, I'm not saying we should ignore them, but I'm almost to that point to where it's very frustrating when we're not getting answers out of them. They have grants that have bought wash stations, so if they're worried about the water to produce electricity, they have wash stations that they could be using, and they're effectively choosing not to. And I think that's something we have to look into for our citizens and for our budget as well. So
Say-
I don't know if you guys all feel the same way, but I know the sheriff's here if we have questions for him.
I was gonna say, I agree with all that. I've been receiving many of the same phone calls and having them as well. Roger, can you tag into a little bit on what's being done? Can Roger give a report on any?
So pursuant to the Brown Act, it's supposed to be no dialogue, right? Because this is not listed on the agenda. So I'm just gonna caution your board to keep this part very, very short.
Yeah.
If you want to have further discussion about Lake Tulloch and Tri-Dam, I think you should place it on the agenda.
Let's place it on the agenda.
Okay, do we have other reports?
Yeah, and,
Supervisor Campbell?
and comments taken, I've received the same. I think we all have, and I agree that that should be an agendized item. The one thing that I will say is I've been pretty involved with our state association, CSAC, RCRC, in some of this state budget stuff, lack of a better word, that's come out. So the $12 billion deficit, some of the things that are in that, a lot of it is impactful to counties like HAP funding, which we depend on for a lot of the homeless, anti-homeless efforts. And so, I've been pretty vocal about being unhappy about that we were trying to go with the plan that the state set out and trying to work within that, and then we're getting a portion of the rug pulled out from underneath us once we're already halfway into a lot of these projects. So it's just frustrating, and it's, something that you hear from a lot of people that you can't trust working with the state, and that hasn't been my experience for the most part, but I think this is kind of one of those areas where it just doesn't look real good, because we're trying to do the right thing in our community, taking a lot of risk, making these things work, and we just haven't gotten the support that we need and that we were promised. And then the last thing I did want to talk about is I'll just end it there. So I think, well, okay, I think we're going to talk about homelessness tomorrow and some of the programs. There was a letter sent to the Lambert Center, to the Lambert Center, saying that the County Behavioral Health would end the contract that we had with that. Me and our CAO and Behavioral Health and Annie Hockett at Social Services, we got into a meeting. That letter's been pulled back, and so we'll probably be having some of that discussion tomorrow about what to do with that. Effectively, the Lambert Center's been operating kind of as more of a soup kitchen, and it's funded through behavioral health. That's not really within the mission of what behavioral health's funding is. And so they had a legitimate concern about whether or not they were putting that funding in jeopardy by having this contract. And so they kind of pulled that. I sort of said, pump the brakes on it. Let's bring it back. We'll have a discussion on the board and see where we're at in it. But there are some issues going on with that. So just to kind of give you a heads up so that you're not surprised about it if you haven't heard about it already. So those are two things I hope to give a heads up on you guys about what's going on, what I've been working on.
All right. Do we have other reports? I don't have anything.
I'm usually
Supervisor
never
Kurt?
prepared for these because we don't do them, but I will say that they're obviously Highway 108's opening or has been opened, but because of the meetings that we've had for the last several years, it has gotten some traction, and there's some potential big changes coming into the future for the district and for 108. And so just know that when that comes, I'll be looking for board support, but it'd be a huge economic win for our community. So I'll keep you in the loop once I get more information, but we're looking to get that pass open sooner and get traffic going through here sooner.
All right. With that, we'll close reports, and if the clerk can read the item 9.
Item number 9, closed session, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, Authority Government Code Section 54956.9D2, one case.
Great. And again, this isn't, this is just a best practice recusal on that, but I think it's wise with it. We'll open up any public comment on item 9. See, going once, going twice. All right, seeing no public comment, we will close public comment and adjourn into closed session as the board, or at least 4 of us. So with that, thanks everybody for hanging in with our meeting. Very much appreciated.